we are red. Red is on.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Thursday, May 23rd, 2019 Selectmen's Meeting. If we could all stand and say Pledge Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we've got some minutes available in their notebooks, folders. For Thursday, May 9th.
Yeah, I may be incorrect in saying this, is under page 1, that Mr. Powell was happy to purchase the 5 reserved spots in front of the inn.
Actually did say it, and we kind of just, I didn't even take it seriously.
Yeah, it was said.
I think it was just said in passing, but yeah, he said it. There was no discussion of the offer, I don't believe.
So, okay,
It was one of a number of things that came up in that conversation.
yeah. Did we actually say that discussion of designating spots exclusively for the inn will be decided at a later date? Or did we say that the discussion about the front of Main Street and parking and giving the stickers in the municipal lot at a later date?
There was talk about where would the spots be for the extra stickers for inn guests. There was the discussion of where those places might be, and if they would be designated for the inn guests, and that the inn guests couldn't park willy-nilly in the parking lot. Not that they would be designated for, hey, we're going to end up giving this guy 11 municipal parking places.
I don't think we've
so.
ever designated exclusively. I don't think we ever agreed
That's right.
on
We discussed
exclusively
it.
giving.
Specific spots.
I don't think the board had a discussion on designating spots exclusively for the inn that we would discuss at a later time at a selectmen's meeting. I think the discussion on the
Possibly designating.
possibly, or in some retrospect, but not exclusively giving the inn spots is, I don't think I would ever have agreed on that.
No.
No, but
5 slots in municipal lot D.
That-
Placard numbers and tags for his guests, but that was not determined, it was just discussed. and for a later date.
So the sentence at the top of page 2 just
And
needs
say
to,
discussion of possibly.
yeah.
He also mentioned that he would work out a system with the police department that would be, have
That's the
dates on
sentence
it.
before that, when it
For
says
approval.
suggested Alan work with Officer Gilman.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, to discuss the matter further. So if that says to discuss the matter further, do we need to have the sentence on the top of the second page?
I don't think it
Well, it's
makes a
sort of
difference.
defined in
Really
the
doesn't.
paragraph before that.
Yeah.
I think it's a continuation of that, and if you'd have put that one extra word in there, because the whole thing was going to be decided at a later date. The
Well-
whole thing is, not just that particular thing.
Right, it wasn't just, they're not just working with Officer Gilman and the chief about that. They're trying to work out a system to see if anything
So we'll
could be
be
worked
talking
out.
about it later.
And then come back to us.
It's not just about the 5 or 6 spaces in the front. It includes 5 or 6 spaces in the front and possibly the use of municipal parking spaces in the evening. So it's combined, the two of them. So you could take that sentence out because it is a combination of both of
I
them.
don't think it makes that much difference,
No,
really.
I suggest you would just take it
I
out.
think Gail gets the gist of it.
Mhm.
On page 2, Jim Cropsey Riverfront Place parking. Second paragraph. Discuss original agreement from 2005, in parentheses, when the park opened. I don't know what I said, but the park actually didn't open until 2006. The dedication ceremony was in September of that year, if I remember. Mr. Cropsey noted it was never signed because it did not include shared parking, which was requested from the parks. That should say, just to differentiate from park commissioners. Because typically when we say parks, we're talking about parks commissioners. This was the park building committee, and I apologize for not knowing officially what they were called.
Yeah, that's a good distinction there,
Yeah.
because it wasn't the Parks Department,
No,
not at that time.
and I was on that committee.
So add building committee. Or building
Yeah, you can just say the building committee. But also, I did counter him by, and I don't remember exactly what I said, if I said there was never an agreement of shared parking, because there wasn't. And that document from 2005 was pre the opening of the park, and there was never any negotiation with the selectmen. But I did say, I know I said that that committee wouldn't have had the authority to make that agreement anyway.
No,
But I just want the other side of the story in there.
yeah.
So the original agreement from 2005 was from where? Or between?
It was between the selectmen and Mr. Cropsey, as it should have been. And there was never any negotiation about shared parking. But I think I more corrected him in saying that. I'm sorry, I don't remember it exactly. I would just like the other side in there.
When you, going along with that, in that same paragraph at the very end, it says, Mr. Cropsey remembers receiving no response. We should clarify from who. Because at that time, it should have been,
Well,
Well, it says coming to the board, so it's a response from the board.
No, he
No.
received no response from the Parks Commission because his letter arrived like 2 days after the meeting before the next meeting,
right.
because they meet monthly.
So
no, that refers to, he was talking about when he and his tenant came to the board, and there was a letter
Yeah.
that his tenant had written. with the specific requests in it of what they wanted.
But we did respond to
And we
that.
did respond
That's
because
correct.
at this meeting, I read the
That's right.
response to him
And
and
we-
explained that since the original letter came from the tenant, that's who we responded to, and we gave him a copy of that response at the meeting.
And that's right, we voted on that response, and we sent that response back to him from the letter from the
So-
You
tenant.
want to just take that out?
I would just,
But then he
Mr.
stated-
Cropsey remembers receiving no
He
response.
did state that he didn't remember.
You could just put a sentence after it that, and you can say that I read him the response, and explain
Okay.
that the response was sent to the person who sent the letter in
Right.
the first place.
Yeah, because otherwise it just seems like we never did respond, and
Right.
that's
So
not,
read a response letter.
yeah,
Okay.
Right,
Yeah,
because we did respond.
you'll have the right
Yep.
language.
right. Yes, because that was very clear that we did respond to that, but we responded to the tenant.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of Thursday, May 9th, 2019, as corrected as amended.
Second.
I haven't finished reading it.
Okay, we'll just give Pat another minute.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the minutes as amended and corrected. All those in favor say aye.
All right,
Aye.
Opposed? So moved? And that's complete. Next thing we have on the agenda is Kevin. Come on down. Oh, hi.
hello.
So you guys have been busy,
Yes, very busy.
and I can tell because we've been getting calls about you guys.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that you're doing a
Good.
great
Oh.
job.
Awesome. I love to
And
hear
that's
it.
hard to hear. You know, you
Yeah.
don't, people usually
People are
call
quick
it
to,
complaints.
yeah.
It's rare when we get that stuff.
Yeah, the guys have been
We all-
working really hard this
I'm
past
so
week.
grateful for that. The townspeople are happy.
Thank you.
Our commissioners commented
Have they?
on how nice Riverfront Park looked.
Oh, very good. I was concerned about that. I'm glad.
I haven't done
everything
my
is good.
walkthrough, but I wanted you to know that.
Okay.
That's what they said last night.
It's good driving by.
Yeah,
I haven't been to all the parks, but the one I've been to, been
Yeah.
maintained.
Looks really good.
let's see, everything is on track. Everything is looking good. All the cemeteries have been cleaned up and mowed for this upcoming weekend. We're able to get the line striping done at the old Route 3, Winnisquam Market. Just what was agreed upon, nothing more until we further look at that situation down there. I didn't receive any complaints or concerns today, either by email or phone call. So I'm going to take that as a good sign. Because we had done the striping in the overnight hours, just to expedite it because of the traffic that is down there. Let's see. We do have, we are behind on line striping and sweeping, and that's only because of the weather. We had like 23 days of rain in April and in May, and what that has done is it's put everybody behind, and these companies are playing catch up. I did reach out to both companies today, and I was told that next week was our week for both sweeping and line striping. So I'm going to try to hold them to that. But we're going to continue trying to do what we can with our machines until then. And what's nice with the sweeping contract is that it is hourly, so whatever we get with our own guys, you know, there's going to be a savings on the other end if he only works 10 hours, and that's all we pay him, which is nice. And we're utilizing our equipment, and it's working very well. Let's see what else. All the equipment is in good shape. We haven't had any major failures or breakdowns. This past couple of weeks, we were testing the mowing equipment at Riverfront Park. I was anticipating having to buy equipment for that purpose, and we're not gonna need new equipment for that. The equipment we have is being very effective there, and it's coming out nice. So what we'll do is we'll just maintain what we have, and just keep on with the maintenance in all the parks. That was something I wasn't sure of in the beginning of taking over the parks, was how aggressive we were going to have to be with new equipment to do a good job, and it seems that the equipment we have is adequate.
Our mowers are in good
Yes.
working mechanical condition?
Yes, last year, I don't know if you remember the invoice, but last year I had spent about $1,500 in parts for the X-Mark. All the hubs needed to be rebuilt. The other equipment is in good shape. I don't foresee any major repairs this year for that. So yeah, we're in good shape. The other issue that has come to light that we're going to be addressing here in the next couple of days, well, tomorrow and probably next week, is Cedar Street has developed some potholes. So and they've become aggressive. At first, it was like, okay, that's going to be speed control because I can't apply the speed bump because it's dirt. But it's gone beyond that now, and we'll have to address the potholes, which we're prepared to. We're going to do that tomorrow, and it's been brought to my attention that the dust is starting to get a little aggressive, so we'll have to maintain that a little more in the upcoming weeks when it's not raining, obviously.
How do you deal with how do you do that dust? You just water it down, or is
Water,
there
yeah.
oil? Or?
Yeah, we actually purchased some calcium chloride
Okay.
under the suggestion of Peter, and we dilute it in water. And we have remember the apparatus that we built for the multi-one for doing the sidewalks?
Yep.
That same system we're going to use on the road,
Okay.
and we'll apply it daily if we have to. Yep,
Depending on your solution, the calcium will last
Sure.
until you get enough rain.
a couple of
leaching it.
days, yeah. So yeah, no, we have a system in place.
So the calcium holds the dust?
It binds it down. If you
Yeah.
go on a gravel road they've hit with calcium, it looks wet all the time. That's the calcium. It's bonding the particles together, and it also
Yeah.
aids in compaction.
So that's something we'll have to be more aggressive with maintaining this in the next couple of weeks.
Question on Cedar Street. What's the schedule with water? Sewer is waiting on water because they've got a line against an area where we want to put in.
That's correct, and I was told by John Chase that they would be addressing those water lines at the beginning of July.
Okay.
So it was a little bit further out than I was expecting, but I'm still okay with that. And I was very happy to hear that they were working together with the sewer department, not just throwing lines in the ground and doing something willy-nilly. So that was very nice. Any questions?
Did they?
What's that?
Yeah.
On the upper end of Cedar,
Yes.
what's going to be done up around Ms. Bestick's house? You've got a 5 or 6 foot patch of roadway that was not touched because of
Yes.
services. Are they going to rip that out, or?
They asked us to go up there with our excavator
Yeah.
and and they asked us to be gentle with removing it with the excavator, taking our time because of the services, and while it's buried in the ground, there's steel plates, there's all kinds of stuff in there, and And they did ask me at the beginning of the project if I'd be willing to do that, and I said yes. Only because I would hate for them to be rushing through and damage something.
Is it not deep enough? Is that what the issue is? Or is it
No.
just, there are a lot of utilities?
There's a lot of utilities there, and they couldn't run the reclaimer across the top without,
Yeah.
And even like a coal plane or even the small trimmer is
Yeah.
about yay wide in the way the things were
So-
spaced. It's
they did saw cut along the sidewalk, so all we have to do is just pluck out and that's something the multi-one can do with the forks. And that was something I was planning on using as a filler for the guys if they were caught up with their weekly routine.
You may want to just try to hold it closer to when they're going to come in to do the final
Oh, yeah.
grading, and
Yeah,
that way, otherwise you'll have to put something in, I think, to fill up.
fill up. Yeah, that's kind of the mindset with leaving the end of the road
Yeah.
as it is, so that we don't break off any other chunks of asphalt that we don't want to replace. So
Good point.
we will start here in the next couple of weeks doing our drainage to Cedar Street and Linden. We're just waiting on some materials to be delivered, but that'll be upcoming. We have,
So you're
we're
gonna fix
gonna,
that drainage problem that's at the bottom there?
at the bottom of,
Maple Court that goes across
yes,
the road there?
yes, we have 2
And
catch
then-
basins going in there.
And then up further?
No.
By Spruce Street? No?
No, no. I went up there with Pete and, well, Harold Fife, and we assessed the situation, and we're gonna use 12-inch pipe throughout the project so that we don't have to worry about water load overwhelming our pipes and we're having backup issues. And we strategically placed catch basins to handle the water load coming from Cedar Street and from the hillside
Yeah.
down Poplar, so, yep.
Sounds good.
Eric, did you have a question? Did it just get answered?
I was going to email you, but I saw you were on the agenda, so I came early.
Yeah.
There's a, part of the reason that you're getting potholes on Cedar Street is there's a house that has a sump pump that appears
Yep.
to be draining out the front yard and then flowing down.
That's work in progress, we're
All
aware
right,
of that.
so, but also the storm drain, particularly the one at the bottom of Cedar Street.
Yeah.
There's nothing protecting the silt and dirt from going into that.
Mhm.
Is there a way to,
I can put up some silt fence,
yeah,
absolutely.
and then as you make the right turn from Cedar onto Winter,
Yeah,
it's like a 6-inch bump. I don't know if you could just like fill that in.
well, we're gonna be bringing in some ledge pack this next week,
Okay.
and addressing the potholes and regrading that, so we can address that at the same time.
All right, that was all the dust was my big thing.
Yep.
It's, when we don't have rain for a couple days, it gets bad.
Goes back. Okay,
That road gets beaten by the sun.
okay.
So,
Well,
yeah, I like, sometimes that road.
just a short time.
Oh, okay.
You have to go skateboarding on it.
Can't go skateboarding now.
Back-
I can only go downhill down to the
When,
brook.
when it's done, it would be real
Not
nice.
that good.
Do you know when DOT is coming through to do Main Street? Like, they go up by the police station all the way up? And then they...
The
do
sweeping?
other part, yeah.
I tried to get that information last week, and they were very evasive with their answer.
Yeah.
They would,
So maybe they don't know?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Typically-
Just like,
Yeah, typically, I've called them like every year,
mhm.
and he said, yeah, we already did, and I'm like, no, you didn't.
Yeah, no.
So-
The one day that I did have rules in here sweeping for a couple hours, he tried it with it raining. He hit across the street from Cumberland Farms for me really quick. So that got swept because I asked the guy that was hired by us to do it. Other than that, I haven't seen anybody from the state.
I think you probably, when we see them on the roads, make sure they
Mhm.
don't skip us over, 'cause sometimes they do. And,
I was not aware of that.
yeah.
I will have to make a phone call.
Living on Main Street and on a place where
Sure.
it gets that deep with sand and cigarette butts, so I
Mhm.
make sure.
Okay.
They replaced the culvert on River Road, DOT did. It hasn't
Very
been
nice.
finished at this point, it's like just packed in and
Mhm.
what have you, but There's a new little
Mhm.
box on the one end, and they did the cover all the way across.
Very nice.
But the side of River Road, the drainage, it's just a mud puddle.
Mhm.
I'm not sure where that water's coming from, or whether it's just, that needs to be ditched.
Mhm. Well, we were told by Bob at the state that all that was going to be addressed.
Yeah.
And
Well, they're working on it.
they also, they were up on Lancaster Hill,
Yeah.
marking, dig safe, and assessing the culverts. And there's that really bad hill curve at the end.
Where work is?
Yes, exactly. There's water bubbling right out of the ground in the middle of the road.
Hmm?
Yeah, that's
Well,
not good.
So that-
Called the spring.
Yes, we do.
Um,
I always
so
chuckle.
that spot is supposed to be dealt with under drain as well. And all of this is wonderful because this coming winter season, it's going to cut down so much
The
on my,
ice.
exactly, and I won't have to treat so much. So yeah, it excited me to see all that work happening because for everybody it's going to be a win.
So, you have your full-time employee started already?
Yes, Jack has started, and he's been wonderful, aggressive, very intelligent. He's learned a lot in his time away from Tilton, and he's a great asset to have. Yeah, his attitude is awesome. His willingness to just show up and do whatever's asked of him. I couldn't ask for any better.
Do you have any upcoming, I know we're short-rated and everything, but do you have any upcoming trainings or schools or that you intend to send anyone to?
Actually, the T-squared classes, I have one in June that we're hosting, and everybody's going to take part of that, and it's free to us because we're hosting the class.
And where is that going to be?
Right,
Right at the garage?
highway garage. Yeah.
All of them going to attend?
Yes.
Is it one-day class or is
So
it?
it's a 1 day. It's a 2-hour refresher, and then the one in September is chainsaw safety, and it's kind of a mix between chainsaw safety and how to fell a tree and deal with fallen trees, things like that. So
Oh, can I go to that?
absolutely, we're hosting it, so every seat we have is free. So
Do you, so what will the end result be? Will they get a level 1 or T-square, or is this?
this is just ongoing education through the T-squared system. The flagger course it's a refresher, so I know I'm up this year, and John Billadu is up this year, so that'll reset that time clock for us.
You might want to include, is there anyone, is you and Johanna?
Hannah,
You might want to ask Sue and.
Oh, sure.
and- Because there's other people, and wasn't there someone from PD that took it as well?
I don't
The
remember.
flagger one?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
might
I
want to
think
ask
there was.
the other departments as
Sure.
well, if you're going to host it, you might as
Yeah,
well get
June
the people
27th,
right
I
in
believe.
here.
I've been working at the shop.
Oh, I know what it was, water, we asked,
Water district.
the water went with the last group.
That's right.
Okay.
I asked them if they have anybody that
Sure.
needs to refresh, that you're hosting it.
Okay.
Has that been scheduled, that refresher course?
Yeah.
June
When
3rd.
is it?
June 27th, I believe. I can send the board an email and confirm the date.
So if it's a refresher, or can someone that wants to be a certified flagger go and be a certified, or is it just for a refresher?
That's just refresher. The initial course is 8 hours all day.
Okay.
How many seats are there in these classes?
Depends on the class, because like a chainsaw class, they want it somewhat small because they're 2 people are sharing a table with a chainsaw, kind of a thing.
I get that. Well, I'm hearing all of these various agencies being afforded this opportunity, and I'm wondering how many positions there actually were at the class before we
Okay.
got too far afield with offering it to others.
Well, I've already assessed our capabilities, and I told UNH that we could handle 40 people comfortably.
Okay, then that should be plenty, right?
Yeah.
Is it like an afternoon, evening type of thing, or is it morning, whatever?
The Flagger course?
Yeah,
I think it's in the morning,
okay.
but I can confirm that information and email it to the board.
I was just thinking if you would be more comfortable, you could go up to the senior center, but
Oh.
that's all I was thinking. This one, if it's that amount of people. The morning on the 27th, though, that would be a dinner time for them.
Parking 40 cars up at
Yeah.
senior center might be a thing.
But we have a new agreement now.
Regardless, that takes up the entire parking lot and then some.
And I realized that there was a small hiccup with the hiring process the last couple of weeks. My goal this past week was just to get through all the stuff I needed done by this weekend. And I was going to focus on my personnel issues on Tuesday, reassess, and then push forward for that. So I didn't want you to think that that was off to the wayside. It's just I put it on hold for a week because I needed to concentrate on the stuff going on in town.
So your intent is still to hire a full-time person? Okay.
Yes.
Didn't we talk about a part-time person?
Yes, I was.
Seasonal.
Oh.
My
and
question-
I was unclear that instead of needing the full-time, now you need a part-time.
No.
Okay, I
It
trust
was-
the DPW guy.
My mindset with that was to get somebody in quick. And I just thought that part-time seasonal
Makes more sense to me.
was quicker than trying to hire somebody that would be long-term, forever kind of a
I get that.
situation. And at the time that all this transpired, I was, oh my goodness, I've got to get somebody quick.
Are you
So it's
recruiting
just-
on any level?
Yeah.
Agricultural program at the high school, or, I don't know, a lot of these...
I pass the word everywhere I go.
Yeah,
And especially for the full-time, forever position,
yeah.
because I want it to be a good fit with the guys that we have, because I don't want any of the guys that I have to go away.
Are
We have
you
a great crew.
advertising in other places for that position, the full-time position? I actually saw the part-time one in the...
Yes, we stopped
Yeah, it's up.
advertising. We stopped advertising for the full-time position. I'm going to reassess the applications that I had already received, and because I had some good applicants, but the one that I had chose was the right choice at the time.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
it didn't work out.
You'll be moving forward that
Yes.
expeditiously, I would assume?
Yes.
Terrific.
I feel much better about that.
Okay.
That I understand it better now.
That whole part-time, I'm gonna, instead of a full-timer, I'm just gonna get a part-time guy and take on all the parts. God, man, he's Superman, but I don't know about that.
I tell you, the guys really surprised me this past week. They stepped up and they got some work done. I was very
I've seen them
pleased.
out and about, and they're right at it.
Not only are they hard workers, but they prioritize and they work efficiently. So I couldn't ask for any better. So,
How do they like weeding?
what's that?
How do they like weeding?
They didn't, but they
How
did
does
it
anybody
anyway.
like weeding?
Yeah.
Can't we just call them ornamental
Why don't you do
grasses
it then?
and leave them be?
Huh?
Can't we
Then
just
take
call them
over Riverfront.
I've weeded in Riverfront. I can't help
Because no
myself.
one can do it to your standard, you might as well do it.
There we go.
You need a part-time job, Captain.
All right,
No.
let's move on.
Okay. All set?
All set, unless anybody else has any more questions?
I have just one, really, the sump pump water thing.
On Cedar Street?
No, that we
Oh, just
emailed back
the
and forth to put it in the
winter maintenance
winter
policy?
maintenance manual.
Sure.
Um, Yeah, I just, but while Kevin's here, I wanted to. So I suggested last week that we put it in the one that we've adopted,
Mhm.
and then I sent you the copy. You could take it and paste it into your draft for us to approve.
Sure.
But I wanted to show you where, because I took your draft, and that's about where you have it in your draft.
No, I think that looks good. There are a number of residents that I need to speak with every year because they discharge water onto the roadway.
So
So,
this will,
um,
this
So
will make it
having a-
very transparent.
having a town ordinance backed up by a state RSA more solidifies the importance of, oh my goodness, this, you can't be doing this, especially in the wintertime.
And our Whitner and Payne's policy is online, so they can easily access it.
Sure. No, very good.
That's okay, you can keep that.
Okay.
But like I said, I sent you that, you should be able to take it right from that email and put it in your draft. I should have a copy of somewhere. Okay.
One more thing before I leave. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the solid waste and the transfer station and upcoming contract with Pinard. I wanted to let you know that in June, I plan on submitting my plan for the transfer station, which would encompass not only the transfer station, but also solid waste handling throughout the town, like a proposal for our own trucks, manning our own trucks, a plan for disposal, a plan for recycling options. So come in June, I plan on presenting that, okay?
With numbers.
Absolutely with numbers. There's nothing really
Outstanding.
new
That's
about.
kind of like my focus this
Mhm.
evening later on, is to bring up that very issue,
Yep.
so.
This isn't the first time I've heard of the talk of the transfer station.
Well,
I
let
didn't-
me kill two birds with one
Go for
rock. To expand on the conversation we're having here, I've been looking at the numbers, and then we've got a couple more years on the Pinard contract. Our recycling disposal costs are capped, so even though recycling costs, the pickup costs, or the disposal costs, I should say, are pretty darn big, and Franklin and the surrounding communities have stopped curbside pickup for that very reason. We're capped, so it's still cheaper than getting rid of.
I'd have to look at the total picture because of the truck.
Let me finish, Peter.
Okay.
The tonnage costs are capped at $50, but we're still paying 100 grand or whatever it is, 103 grand a year to get that stuff picked up separately.
Yes.
And it just isn't making economic sense, and if we don't get out in front of it, we're gonna get all of a sudden caught holding a bag I don't really want to be holding. So I'm looking forward to seeing your proposal.
Okay. Very good.
Are you gonna do two trucks, a new one on like an old one, so you have a backup?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
No. It's all good. No. Yeah. Always have a backup plan.
Mhm.
So,
Do we own those black garbage cans?
yes. I believe
Okay.
we do.
And we own the green garbage cans. So if we were doing we could get the, or have guys, but the arm,
I would push to have automated trucks.
yeah.
Because the town is already trained for that.
No injuries that way, too.
Yeah,
Reduction
yeah.
of injuries, exactly.
Garbage man is one of the highest workplace accidents, and neck, arm, back, knees. Picking up, you think you're grabbing a little can, but it's full of bricks.
Yeah. No, and I have the perfect candidate for that position, so.
Well, we'll see how it goes forward.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Next thing on the agenda is we have the selectmen reports. We can start with Pat this time, I think, on this end.
Oh, color
If you're
me
ready.
dead here, wow.
And could you speak into the microphone so they can hear you?
Can you hear me down there?
Yeah.
Okay,
We can always hear you.
the Tilton Senior Executive Committee is having a yard sale at the Tilton Senior Center August 10th. And if you would like to have a table at this yard sale, it's $20. You can call the senior center and asked for Emily for more information. The police building study committee, well, later on, Gary's coming in to talk to everyone to decide whether it's going to be a contract construction manager or project manager, but we are going out to look at different police stations, some of which Gary has designed. Monday, June 3rd, the Meredith Police Station and Center Harbor Police Station, and then Tuesday, June 4th will be the Somersworth Police Station, and Thursday, June 6th will be the Londonderry and Milford Police Station.
FYI that the survey crew is going to be out there.
And so, and an FYI, the survey crew will be out at the Tilton PD site for the topographic survey. That'll be sometime next week, early next week for a couple of days. I had one other thing, but lost track now.
We can go back around, as we can remember.
So, move along. Oh, this. Do you want me to start knocking on doors, or do you want it to let it ride a little bit longer on the taxes, or? There's just a couple. The only one I'm concerned with is the one that's on last on the list. The other ones have always come in. Would you like me to go out and at least look at the properties and give you an idea of should we take or should we not if that comes to fruition?
My personal feeling is we only have one option, and we take the property. And then we deal with that, such as it is. But we only have, otherwise, why pay taxes? If we're not going to take it, why would they bother paying the tax? It's the only remedy available to the Board of Selectmen.
Except
I say
don't-
go out and talk to them. It always,
Yeah.
at least I can.
Oh, I'm all for that.
I can feel better about, we've done everything we can and beyond what the law requires us to do to contact these people.
I'm all
And
about
let them
that.
know, at least they have an option.
Okay.
And thank you for offering all these years. You did such a great job with it.
Yep.
It's a
All right.
tough thing to do. It's,
It is a tough thing to do. I admire the fact that you want to go out and do it.
10th year. This will be the 10th year
Oh, really?
that we've knocked on doors.
Yeah.
But it's helped some, but some
Fair warning,
don't.
nobody should be blindsided by this.
Well said.
so we probably should do it as soon as possible to see.
I'll go up
Give
this
them time.
weekend. Monday is the parade. It starts at 9 a.m. And they will make a stop in Northfield first. They will be stopping at to play taps at Polly's because Jim has added some more names. People have come up and said, "Oh, this is my uncle, this is my grandfather, this is my great-grandfather," and have said he died in this war and he lives in Tilton or whatever. And so Jim has added that name. So there's 2 or 3 names that have been added to that
Right
list.
across here,
Right in front of,
He puts
In-
them on Polly's
on
window.
Polly's window.
Oh, on Polly's window.
And they are all people that have lost their lives in the war from Tilton. And 10 years ago, they did that, and the Legion stopped their play taps. So they will replicate that as well again this year. And so 9 a.m. for the parade on Monday.
That's rain or shine, I assume.
We the town Board of Selectmen go to the Christmas parade and we go to the Old Home Day, but we never show up at the Memorial Day and be in the parade.
Oh.
You've got the veterans that go in there, and Peggy LeBrecq was right up front with the veterans, proudly as you could be, but we never show up as the town fathers, if you would, in the Memorial Day parade. I don't know why we don't ever do that.
I never did because I'm not a veteran, but I do stand in front of town hall.
I mean, I do attend it, but I just don't know why we never participate and show that we're part of that parade, part of honoring the veterans. It's not, we don't have to be a veteran, but we're honoring the veterans. So I don't understand why we don't do that. We should. But, all right, that's it. Move on.
Okay, Peter?
Yeah, I had a resident contact me earlier this week on multiple days. They called between 30 and 40 times to Avatar, can't get through, and I guess their phone system's so antiquated they don't even have an answering machine backup or a multiple trunk line. So could we possibly ask Avatar to set up an email so people can email and at least get the ball rolling? Because
That person does have an appointment.
But there might be other people too.
I called in right away, got an appointment.
okay, as long as there's no others.
It took me a couple of calls. I didn't have to call that many times, but just a couple.
The first day it was down for a little
Oh,
bit.
I didn't call until Tuesday. Oh, maybe
But
I
if
The
did.
phone was
we
down?
contacted that person, take the name and number, we gave it to Jonathan and Lauren, who were here today. They'll be
Okay.
back tomorrow, and they'll be here also on Tuesday.
So the phone was down for a short period of time?
Very short period,
Okay,
but that's,
enough to cause a problem.
he's all set.
Okay.
Okay.
Then today on Face Page, we got a resident on Winter Street. Pennard, I guess, put a sticker on the barrel. And apparently they've been keeping them both on one side of the driveway, 3 feet apart. And Pennard now says one on each side of the driveway, which now puts it near the mailbox. So why can't we line them 3 feet apart? I understand they have a new driver, which is why the wider you can keep them, the better, because they're getting acclimated to the arm. But,
That's been taken care of as well. Spoke with Tony today about it. 'Cause
Okay.
The resident called.
okay,
It wasn't, he did not receive a letter from Pernard. He did get stickered. It was, he must have gotten a letter from maybe the post office because it was parked in front of the
right,
mailbox, but that's not, yeah.
How
okay.
was it resolved?
Yeah, what's the result?
Tony is gonna go up and talk with the gentleman and make sure he knows exactly where to place his bin.
Okay, because the wife was the one on.
Are we still 3 feet apart, at least, minimum? Okay.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
Well, that's what they say, but I don't think I've ever put my barrels 3 feet apart. Because that would put one on the corner of my driveway and one in the middle of my driveway, sort of, kind of. I still have to drive around these things. And I've never had a problem.
you can't put it on the lawn out front. The arm
Do
does,
anything I wanted, but that's not what I do ordinarily.
because the arm does
You know what
have
I
some,
mean? And,
yeah.
and they just reach right in there, and I haven't had any problems. They certainly didn't sticker me. I don't know. And I saw that same conversation.
Okay.
And some people were having problems, and other people were going, well, we've never had any
Right.
problems. So it seems inconsistent on some.
But Tony is always very,
Yeah.
very.
Yes, yeah. Yes.
Amenable and going out to talk directly with the resident.
He's exceptional.
Well,
He is,
that's great.
That's
done a lot of social media.
That's it?
Yep. It's good for something.
Something.
Joe, you're on.
Actually, most of the stuff that I was going to talk about's already been discussed. I'm going to a planning conference coming up at the beginning of June, and that's pretty much it for me. I'm good to go.
Catherine?
Well, a couple of the topics are already under Jeannie's, so we'll wait for her. But just an FYI, I spoke with a resident that came into town hall today, He was upset about the speed limit on Lancaster Hill Road. Evidently, a dog was killed by a speeding motorist, which was a hit and run a short time ago. He's almost gotten hit. So, I made a preliminary contact to Bill Lambert just to find out the process. If they want to reduce the speed limit on Lancaster Hill Road, what do they need to do? It's really just an
Who do
FYI.
they talk to, yeah?
It's a 35-mile-an-hour
Yeah.
road because it is,
State?
it's a state Class 2 road in a rural residential area, and it's more than half a mile.
Yeah.
So what,
For
it's
right
a
now-
very windy,
It's very windy, but
For
I
a
do.
35 mile an hour
35.
zone,
You
right.
can't go 35 on most of that road.
You can go by the View Farm and whatever and go
Well, once you come up
over
the
that
hill, that's about it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted you to know that I had done that.
Okay. Well, that's all we have for selectmen reports. I let everybody else talk first. They covered the things I was going to bring up. So I have nothing. Okay, next week I'll be first.
There you go.
Okay, so the next thing, well, we had police station architect Gary Goodrow, but he's not here yet. Let's see what's going
under 7:15, are they coming in?
No, we
Or
haven't
it's
heard
just a
from him.
discussion?
We're supposed to be discussing it, and even if
Okay.
they may show up if they
All
know
right, I
it's on
just
the
wanted to
agenda.
know if somebody was coming in.
Not that we know of, we have not
Okay.
heard back.
Eric or Tom, do you have anything out there? We just had a little time if there's anything that
Yeah,
you want to bring up.
want something out with you guys.
Oh, that's nice.
I just have a concern about the new proposed state liquor store that's going in.
Mm.
And what's got me upset is with the traffic that's here now. It's just gonna get worse. And is it a done deal, or is it something that it is?
Um,
Is it a done deal?
And I
Yes,
just found out
yes,
that,
Bill.
I'm gonna speak for Jeannie,
Yes.
because she talked with someone from the state today, and they are evidently going to be leasing from Market Basket. And
Well, if they're gonna lease that property, they're gonna build a building.
They're not required to submit anything for site plan review because it's the state of New Hampshire.
Right.
Sometimes they do as a courtesy.
But Market
Now-
Basket, here comes Jeannie now, Market Basket
Perfect
will have
timing.
to come to the town
Because they're leasing?
because they're leasing.
Oh, that's a good
Mr.
thing.
Damon was just asking.
That
about
is a
the
good
liquor
thing to
store.
know.
Yeah, I recall
That is a good thing.
what the commission said.
So they will be coming before the planning board on some level.
It will be the
Market basket.
Outstanding.
Yeah, that's good.
Outstanding. No, that does give us a layer of protection.
The second
Okay.
concern that I have is this property gonna be on the tax rolls or off the tax
Yes,
rolls?
it's on the
On.
On,
Okay, that's not, you know, I moved here because of, it's a small town that I grew up, just like the one I grew up in, and now it's becoming another Hooksett. Well, it is, and
Right.
it's not, I find it very upsetting, and I don't know what we can do about it, you know?
We can do our very best. I grew up here, born and raised in this area, and remember when Pike was out at exit 20. Towns changed a
Right.
lot. The only thing we can legally do
Yeah,
is to make sure we have proper ordinances in place, run it properly through the planning board, and at the very least, make them comply with groundwater protection
Right,
and,
yeah.
you know, I mean, but that's really realistically all we can do.
The planning board can say no.
And then we're in court.
the planning board can't say no?
Can.
Can.
You can.
They
They
can.
can't, but they don't.
They don't, but they can.
Oh, they don't, that's the.
No, well, there's language in the site plan, and I don't remember it exactly, that allows them to turn down projects. But Joe's right, they'd probably end up in court.
Isn't there some-
If it's not a good idea, if it's not a good idea.
If it's not good for the town.
That's right.
Well,
No,
that's what, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah, one at a time.
no, go for it.
I always thought that the community leaders could make a point that it's not in the best interest of the town of Tilton. There is a state liquor store in Franklin, and there's another one in Belmont. What do you have these every 50 feet?
My guess is that one will get shut down quick. They want this one because it's right on the highway. Easy on and off.
Yeah, we're gonna have drunk driving like crazy.
Yeah, this is gonna be a big one,
I spoke to
too.
the chief briefly, and he said there's 25,000 people come through this town in the course of one day. And plus the citizens he has to protect too. I mean, with a small town and the operating budget that this town has, it's only gonna get worse. You know, are we gonna see 10-story high-rise buildings in here?
No, 3.
No, can't go over 40 feet.
We have ordinances for that,
What is
enforcing the
three-story?
But you
order.
can't say no.
No, that's not true.
That's there. That's not something that's just ambiguous. It's there.
Being facetious, but I'm just very.
And we did say no to 40
I'm just very
feet.
concerned about,
And we won.
you know, a citizen that lives here, you can't get to where he wants to get because somebody else is in the traffic zone, you know?
You're absolutely
I
right.
empathize with you. You should try getting out of
Yeah.
my driveway.
Oh, golly, yeah. Blind spot on your drive.
Well, you
Try,
can,
try coming out of Manville on a weekend.
Oh, no.
Silver Lake Road. I mean, and the list goes on and on. I
the list
understand.
goes on and on.
It
Oh,
does.
waiting
It's
for,
bad. You're right.
We
You
can
know,
do
no, I gotta
a
go 10 miles
report.
around
We
just to
can
get
do
down
a
in here.
report.
You're right.
At least you know the back
Tom, finish
road.
up here.
I take it all the time.
Okay, Tom, so,
Thank you.
yeah, thanks, and you take it to heart, I think we're all.
I empathize completely.
Okay, so, let's see, what else do we have here? So we've got about 15 minutes, and if you want to do some of the town administrators reports, did you want to wait a little bit? We have 15 minutes. Karen.
I can go forward now if you want.
Sure.
Yep, okay. So you have my report in front of you, everyone. The first action item is a quote for a sonogram from GPRS Inc. For the Academy Street project. If you recall, we had a quote from somebody to fix the wall that we had a resident express concern about what was going on underneath. Kevin did go out to find companies that did this type of thing. He could only find one place in New Hampshire. The next closest place was in Connecticut. So the quote that we have is for $1,000 to do the sonogram for Academy Street to see if there are any pockets, you know, if there's anything under the road that we have to be concerned about. So I can hand, it only has one signature, and basically it just talks about how they will come out and do the sonogram and the equipment. So I can, you can take a look at that. And if you want, I can move on to my other items while you're looking at it. The second action item is the expiration of the collective bargaining agreement, which is due to expire in June 2020. And I wanted to find out from the board if you want to have us go out, issue an RFP for legal services for the next contract.
I say yes.
Yes. Right? It's
Yeah.
Okay.
the standard procedure.
Yeah, Jeannie and I spoke about this earlier. I think it's time.
Yeah, and actually, Pat, I think you suggested it, so we will go ahead and put that together. I have paperwork from the past where we've issued RFPs before, so I'll work off of that. The next item is the space hall, or the town hall space needs survey. I had a survey done, or I did a survey just here in town hall, the staff, to kind of get their feedback about what was going on in town hall. There were 3 primary issues that came up: communications, the need for better communications among staff, climate control in the building, and a real strong desire for a lunchroom. So I have a proposal. I've talked to everybody in town hall. We had a staff meeting this last Wednesday. Everybody seems to support this idea for a lunchroom. And the proposal is the current copy room where the refrigerator is to, there are posts at the back. We were going to put a wall and make that Tim's IT room, so it will be right next to him. Put the lunchroom on the other side of the wall.
So half of the copier room would be,
More than half of the copy room would be the lunchroom.
so three-quarters, sort
Yeah,
of, kind of.
Pretty
okay.
much. And then everything that's in the copy room and the supply closet would go in the IT room. That will now be vacant, because all that IT stuff will move over to
But
the
would
IT
go
room.
back to being a copy room.
Right. And the file cabinets we measured it out, it looks like most of the file cabinets would fit out along the wall. So that's the proposal.
Which wall?
Well, there are several walls. So if you take the supply cabinet, you know where the supply cabinet is as you walk down the hall to your left, that would move into the copy room. So you'd have 2 or 3 file cabinets there, and then because all the microwave and everything that's out there and
So where the windows are?
could be. I mean, we would put them all along the walls. So, and in measuring it looked like everything would fit.
I'm concerned about putting it on the wall where you have the seal, because the table is tight up against the pole.
Oh, no, it wouldn't go on that side.
Okay.
Yeah, it would go
You
off.
said the walls,
Yeah.
that's why I'm questioning which walls.
Yeah.
So the other walls, that would be great, because you don't have the room for the, like if the planning board was meeting down there, you wouldn't, or the
Yeah.
zoning.
Have to keep them away from the registers, those
Yep.
have to be exposed.
And we looked at that.
You have,
They're all locking, right?
no,
No, and they
Tax cards.
they need to be locked in the first
Yeah.
place, and they're not, so we need to get those fixed anyway.
you have is it a return air vent in the floor, just outside?
Can't be bothered. But then we'll
So-
work it out.
And we've looked at all that.
You did look at that?
We did, yeah. Tim and I were looking at that today.
Well, if they all, how many total are the file cabinets are there?
There are 7. And
That's
Tim,
it?
yep, inside the copy room now, there are 7. 2 of those need to be replaced with fireproof file cabinets. They're not fireproof and they need to be, so they would need to be replaced. But there are a total of 7 inside.
And how many of them are not locking?
I want to say, I think maybe all of them are not, they have locks, but they're not working, so we need to get them fixed.
How hard is that to do?
I don't think it should be hard at all. I would
Those
call
little locks?
locksmith.
Oh, those are easy.
Yeah,
Okay.
You just buy them and put them in.
I could be a public works. One more thing for.
Did we talk at one time about bringing them up here with the, when we bring a new planner in here and make an office?
We've talked about putting them up here, I mean, quite frankly, that,
And putting them along the wall?
we talked about
And then that saves
getting
the
rid of
space
that case.
downstairs?
We actually donated it to somebody that, they don't have it yet, but they'd fit right there.
well, that's a possibility, but we're doing everything in stages right now, or that's what I'm proposing, because we're still talking about, will we be moving around space downstairs where everybody's sitting right now? So the first step for me seems to be, let's just focus on getting the lunchroom.
So how much is it gonna cost to put a wall up?
So to put the wall up, it's going to be about $360 for the wall. Tim got I guess he figured out what it would cost for the relocation of the equipment, which is $750. Kevin would need to build him some shelves, which is another $300. The total is about $1,800 to do this.
Do we have any plan or anything that I can look at on We're talking the meeting room downstairs, correct?
We're talking about,
The old
do you know where the
planning room.
copy room is, where the refrigerator is?
Key lock.
The old planning
Old land
room,
use.
old land use
Okay,
room.
So that's the room we're talking about making into the lunchroom.
okay, because I thought the refrigerator was in the meeting room.
No,
No.
it used to be,
Okay,
used to be,
okay,
at one time.
okay.
So anyway, it was a real strong desire of the staff. And when you think of the fact that they spend most of their time, their day here, and I have seen many times when there have been staff trying to have lunch and people come in and sitting down, and I think they just need some downtime.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I just, can I just be selfish and not take my carpenter away until he fixes the floor at the senior center? If you're gonna put a wall up?
Well,
It's the same carpenter.
no,
Highway would do the wall.
no, Kevin,
Okay.
our Kevin.
Our Kevin.
Well, the carpenter put the wall up downstairs in the planning room, remember?
Yep.
And the doors. I was
No,
thinking you were gonna use the same
no.
person. Okay. I was being very selfish. Yeah, I'm
Maybe someone
wholeheartedly
can come
for it. I
down,
think
it's
that
easy as it
this has
went
been
up.
something that the employees have been asking for years and years and years and years, and we haven't been able to do it. I think if we can find the money in the budget, I think it's time to do it.
And I think, Tim, we've talked about it, so he can
You
find
can
it.
find it?
Yes.
Okay. Then I motion that we do it.
My second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
And Mr. Chairman, I see that Mr. Goudreau is here, and I know that Eric Pyra, who's the vice chair, needs to get off to another meeting, so if you wanted to let him scoot in before I finish, that'd be great.
That would be great, yeah. If you're ready. Yeah, come on now. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
So Eric, I didn't know, did you want to say anything as the vice chair?
I'll chime in if they want.
Okay, so I'll just set you up here, Gary, okay? So, unless, Pat, you want to.
Oh, no, I don't want
Okay.
to set him up.
Okay, I didn't mean it in a bad way. So the Police Building Study Committee met a week or so ago, and Gary presented some options about how we would move forward with the project. And there were two different kind of notions he talked about, which was a construction manager and versus a clerk of the works. And the committee seemed to really like the idea of a construction manager, but they felt it was important to come to the select board and talk with all of you about it to get you to weigh in on it. And so Gary's here tonight just to kind of give you that overview and then answer any questions you might have.
Just a point of clarification. The comparison is actually between construction management and general contractor
Oh,
bid.
sorry.
We sort of started the conversation off with whether or not the town was entertaining using a clerk of the works during the construction process. And in my experience of doing these municipal projects, the times when we have used clerk of the works has usually been under the general contractor bid form of contract delivery, as opposed to the construction management, and I'll explain why in a minute. But that's completely up to the town. You could use a clerk under both forms if you chose to. But the essence of a construction management form of contract is, that's different from the general contractor bid, is that the construction manager is really the agent of the owner, the representative of the owner. They sign a separate contract with the owner, much like I did. And they work for you with your best interests in mind. You hire them, they put the project out to bid to all 16 divisions, all of the subcontractors. They assemble them all, they bring them before the town, and the town has an opportunity to review them for acceptability before they actually get accepted by the construction manager and then put into a contract. that's sort of the overarching view of the construction manager. But I have various task descriptions here, and I'll go through them one at a time.
And everybody should have gotten this handout. Does everybody have that? It's a comparison of construction management versus general contractor.
Is that under you?
Okay, I had sent
Yeah.
to all of you.
Did you send it in our computers, or?
Oh, I thought that
But did you print it out for us to see? No,
I sent it to you.
just in the
Yes,
computer.
okay, that's where I
okay.
saw it on an email.
It's not coming up, Jeannie, that's why I asked.
Yep.
It's something with the
Gail's making
server
copies for you.
that's not allowing us to look at it.
Give me a second.
Something with the server, it's saying, no, you can't reach it. Oh, I just tried again, it came up.
Yeah, I can't access the internet here. So, construction manager almost is in effect our clerk of the works, sort of, right?
That's sort of been our experience in the industry because they are working directly for you as your representative. Most municipalities feel like the clerk would be a redundant position, so you could save the money that you would otherwise spend on a clerk. And for a project of this size, the clerk might even just be part-time if you chose to hire one. The project is not that large that you would need to have a clerk full-time on the site. So it could be, 20 hours a week or 30 hours a week, whatever the town was interested in doing if they chose to go that route. So I'll sort of proceed down this task description list. Town responsible for putting the project documents out to bid. Typically, under the construction management form, you would not be responsible for doing that. The construction manager would assemble the documents that we give them, and they would be responsible for putting it out to bid. Under the general contractor bid form of contract, you would normally, as a town, put out an RFP for the project and take care of loading these documents electronically up on a website, and the contractors would then go to the website to purchase those documents, the drawings and the specs. So that's one difference. Competitive bidding of all sub-trades, both forms of contract delivery method do that. Contractor working as a representative of the owner, as I discussed earlier, the construction manager does play that role. The general contractor, I've noted here, not necessarily, and the reason I say that is because the general contractor is looking out for their fixed bid interests when they send in their bid. They're looking to be the low bid to get the project, and once they do that, they're really looking to make sure that they maintain their profit margins and the project comes in on time and on budget, but they aren't necessarily looking out for the owner's best interests. They're looking out primarily for theirs first and yours probably second. This is where the owner could choose to use a clerk of the works to have that extra set of eyes on the job site. Accounting for construction costs open to the owner for review during the bid and construction. Under the construction management form of contract, that would be yes. As I mentioned, they would bring all the bids back to the town. The town would have an opportunity to review them, and once the town goes through and selects any that they choose, if they're different from the construction manager's choices, and then you would form a contract with the CM, signing a contract for a GMP, which is a guaranteed maximum price. If you were looking to get a guaranteed maximum price before the construction manager brought all the bids in, then your choices for manipulating those bids after the fact are limited. You would still have to stay within that guaranteed maximum price. Each line item could be adjusted, but the overall number at the bottom would not be. Owner participating in bid review and subcontractor selection. As I mentioned, that would be one of the hallmarks of the construction management form of contract, again, within the limits of the guaranteed maximum price. And the general contractor bid, you would not have bid review and subcontractor selection opportunities. The bid prices are selected by the GC during the bid phase, and they're looking to be the low bidder, so they would assemble all of the lowest qualified bids that they would determine to be qualified. And that's the price you'd pay. Assistance during the design phase, which is typically for constructability and cost estimating, typically referred to as pre-construction services. The construction manager would provide those services. They typically, if they're going to be hired, they come on board as quickly as they can after the schematic design is done, which is roughly about now, so that they would have some impact on the drawings as we finish the design and then go into construction document phase to make sure that if you have a budget in mind, then they would work with that budget and make sure that we stayed on track. If you are looking more to make sure that the police department gets the scope of work that they need, then the construction manager would put together that price, and that's the one that would go out to bid, or they would go to the voters in March. The general contractor bid, you would not have any input during the design phase. They don't see the documents until they're all done. Project management at the job site, supervision during construction, for managing the project cost, the schedule, and the subcontractor activity. Both of them do that. Construction administration fee structure, which is based on the cost of the work. The CM fee is typically identified during your RFQ, RFP process, so you are competitively bidding the construction manager project part of the scope. You then shortlist your construction managers, you have an interview process, and you select one based on their experience level, whether or not they're capable of doing the work, and their fee structure, which is typically in the range of 3 to 5% of the cost of the work. And under the GC contractor bid, they have an overhead and profit listed on their bid form, and that typically ranges anywhere from 10 to 15%. And I have some notes, some definitions for some of the terms that I've been using. As I mentioned, a clerk of the works is typically someone with construction supervision experience hired by the town to oversee the work during construction for quality and completeness. You might think that that is somewhat redundant to the job that we would do during construction administration, but we're there only periodically, once a week or once every other week, depending on the schedule of the work. So the clerk of the works, as I mentioned, could be there part-time or full-time. They're there much more often than we are. They can see more of what's going on before certain things get covered up. When footings get buried, walls get sheetrocked, all of that stuff. They're on site. They're familiar with the drawings and the specs, and they can keep a better eye on things. The position can be full or part-time, as I mentioned. You may elect not to use that clerk of the works under the CM form of contract. Consider using a quality-based selection process. The town may already do this when they put things out to bid, but if you're going to go the GC route, it would be advisable to have a quality-based selection process to go through to make sure that the people who are going to submit bids are qualified to do so that you could feel more comfortable when you see the low bid, that there isn't a lot of things that are left out of that bid, and that you'd be nervous about taking it, especially if you have a certain grouping of pricing that comes in, say, 3 or 4% towards each other, and you have one that's really, really low. Then you could get a little nervous about whether or not that person's qualified to do the job.
Yeah, it depends. Some contractors adjust their bids to put the money into their items, and they'll shortchange others to make it up. I worked for Pike years ago, and that was Milo's trick. He went into every bid, he had the number first and worked backwards, so his subcontractors, he'd put pennies down on stuff that should be dollars, and he'd make it work.
But the overall bid price was...
He'd get the low bid. He was smart enough, he knew where the number should be, and then he just worked it backwards.
I'm not quite sure I follow.
Well, when you do enough construction projects and they come out, you got an idea of the range of where the price is going to be. He'd get that number and have his estimators work backwards and put the extra money into the hot mix, which is his profit, and he'd lose money on some of his subs, but he was still making enough money that it was much more profitable that way. So hydro seed, loaming and stuff, he'd shortchange and put more money into the mix.
I guess what I'm saying is, under this general contractor form of a bid, all of the scope that's represented in the drawings and the specs has to be identified in the price.
Mhm.
So it almost doesn't matter where he shifts the money around.
Correct.
It all adds up to X
Correct.
on the bid form. So I guess that's all I'm saying. That final number on the bid form can range among all of the various people, all of the various GCs who are submitting a bid. So each one of
It
them,
better, otherwise they've been on the phone.
so anyway, that's just something to think about. The selection process for the CM is typically an RFQ and RFP solicitation early in the design phase, as I mentioned. This is a combination of quality-based selection and competitive fee analysis for selecting the CM. And the guaranteed maximum price is the maximum contract price to be paid to the CM unless the scope of the project is increased. And that three things could happen. The scope could be added by the owner during construction. Unforeseen conditions, things under the ground that we didn't know were there, for instance. Or scope that's missing from the contract documents, but it's needed to complete the project. We as designers do our best to make the drawings as complete as we can, but we're human. If we leave out something, theoretically, it would not be a big ticket item. But if it's needed to finish the project, that would be something that would be above and beyond the guaranteed maximum price. The last note I have, that's not on your sheet, but I wrote it down for myself, is the town would need to check with council on how to structure the RFP for either form of contract so that the town is not obligated to move forward with a contract with the successful CM or GC if the project doesn't pass the vote. So you probably already have something like that the town does. So you've got the language already worked out. But if the voters say no, there's no project. So that's sort of it in a nutshell.
What's your recommendation to the board, Gary?
We find over the last 10 to 15 years that the construction manager form of contract is a lot more successful. It's less adversarial. The books are open to the owner. The owner knows where all of the money is going. As this gentleman just mentioned, there's an opportunity for moving money around that the owner wouldn't see under a general contractor bid, as long as that final number is accounted for every month during the requisition for payment. The owner really doesn't know, but under a construction management form, you see everything. All of the dollars are there, and if money is moving around, they're doing it with your say-so, with your okay to do that.
With any project we've had a clerk of the works, Donnie Stevens, with the bridge project. Dennis
Depends.
Allen,
It depends.
the culvert.
But we would still be able to have a clerk of the works. It just depends on whether we go with construction management
Or
and
general.
general
Construction
contract.
management
I'm
really
conf-
is a clerk of the works.
I'm confused.
Should be.
They do work as your representative, so they're doing a lot of what the clerk would do.
I guess I'm confused.
Peter?
I've had 3 sewer projects, million, 2.2, 2.2 and 4.2. Every one of them, the initial engineer did everything for us. They did the initial plans, the bid documents, they did construction administration. We had paid for each part. So,
And Danielle
Goodrow and
Ford,
Associates is not going to be doing that?
As I mentioned earlier, we do construction administration, but we're out there once a week or once every 2 weeks on a periodic basis just to make sure that the project is proceeding in general accordance with the documents. We are not there 5 days a week. That is not what we do.
Wish I'd known that before we selected, but okay.
But that's
think that
fairly
is.
standard.
I don't
That's-
think that, I don't think
that's-
No,
not
when
one
we've done
person.
sewer, the engineers had their people on, and for whatever, they weren't there 40 hours a week, but they were there more than once every other week.
But all the architects that we interviewed, that was the norm, standard, if
It's-
you would.
It's
None
standard
of them
AIA
would do
language in the
that.
contract.
This is an
Building.
architect,
Right.
Right.
Building structures,
yeah,
Yeah,
so many different.
So this
not
is-
necessarily construction management.
right.
But we've had,
Two very
we
different
weren't
things.
in the construction phase anyway,
No.
so it
No.
wouldn't have been included in that.
Well, okay, but on sewer, we go soup to nuts. Whoever we start with, we hold with, because otherwise you start moving, you have to repay for things getting redone.
That might be a design-build form of contract, maybe, in which case the design builder is doing it all, from start
No,
to
this
finish.
is a engineering, these were engineering firms. They're not contractors.
Well,
Well, maybe that's how their contract was set up.
Seems like that.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I was assuming we were doing here, so that it was, everything was through you. You were our agent to see it all.
Yeah,
And
that's,
here we are.
well,
It's not, that's not so, Peter.
Okay, well,
It's not-
and the
that wasn't
guaranteed
done
price
different.
isn't guaranteed, because they always have things that come up, so don't hold your hat on that.
So
Sweet.
is it being suggested that we go through all the process of bidding, et cetera, before town meeting next year?
that is, that was my understanding from the start, that whichever contract method you're talking about doing, we would have a general contractor or a construction manager identify the cost of the project so that you could put it on your warrant article for the town to
Right.
vote on.
This is where I think maybe you can answer a question for me, Eric. Is that the recommendation of the committee going forward, that we have a plan and we move forward and we try to sell it at town meeting this coming year?
Yes.
Yes.
And actually, Tom's on the committee as well, I'm sorry, I forgot.
And,
No, Vice
just to
Chair.
Relate that in the fire district, we work with an architect, but we also hired a construction manager. Because that is, and we sent that out, that part of it out to bid, and I think we had 5 or 6 different bids.
Well, you're not suggesting that we hire a construction manager now, are you?
If you, oh, I'm sorry.
Because we didn't raise and appropriate any money to do that,
To pay the
did we?
construction manager, so how would we pay the
It's gonna be
construction
$100
manager?
grand anyway.
Well,
So,
At some
What-
point in time, we need to get a price to go to town meeting
I
with
understand.
a price, so.
maybe what I should do is
Yeah, could you-
clarify that. If you go back to what I talked about under pre-construction services, I didn't mention it, but the pre-construction services is sort of a standalone number. They would identify, and the range that I have seen on construction managers that I have worked with has been anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 to do the constructability analysis while we're designing and to do the cost estimating. They haven't put anything out to bid at that point. They're just, as we're going along, say 50% through DD, they're saying, okay, you know, we've put out some of the major numbers out to, say, the concrete folks and the MEP folks, but they have in-house estimating that feels more comfortable, that they can put together numbers on, say, masonry and carpentry and roofing and that sort of thing. So that is a standalone number that a construction manager would do those pre-construction services for. You could ask during the RFP phase if they would be willing to defer that fee to the successful bond vote. Some people have done that.
And we don't bond, and the
I mean,
project
the
isn't
warrant
approved?
If,
The warrant
that's what I'm
article,
saying. If they
Right.
agree to defer their fee,
But
then a
if
project,
it isn't approved,
Then they don't get paid.
that's what I'm saying.
Right.
they're gonna do this work knowing that they might not get paid?
If you ask that question,
Right. Some have done it, is what Gary has said.
Contingent
Contingent upon,
approval at
correct.
town meeting.
I like that idea.
we just leave it up to them to say yes or no.
Yeah, you don't know if you don't ask.
Right. They may say, you know, minimum $10,000 or whatever, but some may choose to
And
invest
have
in
you
it.
seen it in the past where some have chosen to?
It doesn't happen often, but it's happened in the past, so like you say, if you don't ask, you don't know.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I'm not suggesting that people work for free, but if you don't have the money allocated and you can't find the money for them to be on the job while we're designing it, then you can either ask that question or you can just say, we'll go the general contractor bid. Those are your choices.
Did we set any money aside for that?
Nope. No. We did not raise appropriate any money for this.
I didn't think
And as a
so.
member of the Board of Selectmen, I had no idea this is where we were going before town meeting. I'd like another week to think about this.
It's
Yeah, that's,
purely an option to just think about.
Yeah.
It's not going to affect what we do. I mean, we can still proceed just the way that we intended to proceed.
What are you
And that would be under the
proceeding?
general
How-
contractor bid.
What are you proceeding with? What is the outline of what you're doing this year?
We're putting together the drawings and the specifications complete so that the drawings can be put out to bid. So that you can get a general contractor, a series of general contractors to put a bid together and say, we'll build the building for X. That's the way that we were proceeding until the question of clerk of the works came up, and then I introduced the concept of construction management, which was simply a talking point.
When
It's-
they were designing the proposed building at Business Park Drive, I think that was Turner. After they designed the building and actually before they came down to what kind of carpet and how many outlets, they had projected prices. We're not doing that with this.
No.
You're going to design it down to how many outlets, fixtures, every little thing, and then actually put it out to bid.
The town will put it out to bid, but I would
Right.
assist you,
It would
yes.
go out to bid.
Right,
That's how we're going to get prices.
correct.
Okay.
That was the process that I understood when the voters said yes in March. The only reason we're talking about this now is because the concept of construction management was floated out there for discussion. But it doesn't change what I was originally intending to do.
lack of construction management is not going to make any difference to you in your process.
No.
So until we actually know more about what's going on with this project, it seems awfully early on in the process.
Well, under construction management, that's typically what you try to do with these pre-construction services. You try to get the benefit of their experience, again, for constructability and cost estimating. But that's surely up to
Right.
you as an option.
And to kind of answer Joe's statement that it seems kind of early on, we're trying to get everything buckled up by November so that we have numbers for January 1, so it can be on a warrant article. So if you realistically look at it, it's not really early on in the process because you have to have time for Gary to do his work and then time for a numbers and a bidding process and then put together public hearings and then put together all of these pieces and then put together a warrant article.
I'm not sure how they're going to structure this. This is going to be $100,000, at least. Depends on how much, it's like $105,000 at $3 million project. Right, so it's going to cost around $100,000, maybe more money. We don't have the money.
Well, we allocated money at town hall for Gary's service, at town meeting for Gary's services.
The CM now, the construction management thing at 3.5%, that's going to be around $100,000. Where does that money come from?
But
We
that's
don't-
during construction, that's
Right.
not during the
That
pre-construction
would have to be
services.
raised and appropriate with.
So for the next 6
finance.
months, they're going to work for free.
So we have choices, you stated, 10 to 15,000
I heard what he said.
is typical, and that
Where
would
do we
be...
get that money? We didn't put it
We
away.
don't have that money.
It's over
There you
there.
go.
It's not been raised
So
and
it's awfully
appropriate.
early on to spend money that we don't have.
But
Well,
to
what
pair it-
Gary was suggesting is that we ask if they just roll it in, and if it doesn't, contingent upon passing at town meeting, if it doesn't pass at town meeting,
They're willing to do
They
it
get
for
paid
free
for
in the
free.
short term. I'm willing to take their free service.
To parrot what Peter said in projects past, this is not what's taken place, and shame on me for making the assumption that would be the same way. So this is all very new to me, your process in this, and what you're going to provide. So again, I'd like a week at least to
Yeah.
look at
We
the
can do that.
contract.
Yeah, there's no hurry on my part.
Still
I
going.
could, yeah, I'm
You
still
can continue
proceeding.
on with what you're
Yeah.
He's
doing.
still gonna continue
And we
on with the
won't-
with the,
And we won't
committee,
delay.
right.
Nothing changes.
Good.
Keep-
We won't be
just keep
delaying
thinking
you.
about this. so
It would
that
just be to the town's benefit. The sooner that you bring on a construction manager, the more they can offer the project, that's all. But if you're hesitant because you don't feel like, you have the
No,
funds.
we don't have the money.
Right.
Not gonna spend money we don't have. We should have known this.
This would have been.
Last year.
Yeah. Because we could have budgeted for it.
Right.
I guess I don't want to leave you with the impression that you've somehow been shortchanged because
No.
this
No, no,
is not
No,
affecting my process.
no.
No, I get that, but your best advice is to have this person on board as soon as possible. Had we known about this in January, we could have figured it into our budget, going into this year, and we'd say, yeah, we got the money and let's get the guys. But now we don't have that, unfortunately. So, yeah, let us think it over. Maybe we can, I don't know, see what
Punt.
we can do.
Okay, well,
How is the project moving? You are able to keep the ball field
yeah, we've
with
got,
the building?
Yep.
Did you bring a copy of the map, maybe?
no, I didn't, unfortunately, and I
I've got it
did,
downstairs. You want me to bring it out?
I did check
Just to show them.
I did check the setbacks, so I did have to massage the layout of the parking, because the side yard setbacks are 50 feet.
Yeah.
So I had to adjust the parking a
So
little bit.
my next question, the ball field gets to stay. Where will parking for attendees of the ball field be able to park?
Oh,
We have that shown on that document that
You do,
Pat's
so,
talking
and I
about.
don't need to see it, your word that you.
Gail's
you
gone down.
accounted for
Oh,
that.
Jeannie's gone down to get it.
Okay.
You'll be impressed by it. I
We've
think.
got, I want to say between 10 and 12 public parking spaces in the front of the building, and we've got 35 to 38 staff parking for the PD.
That's frightening.
They
And
can park the cruisers.
Well, they can park the cruisers there too,
We refer to them as other parking spaces.
other spaces.
and then there's the parking for the football field,
Very nice,
play field.
very nice. Very nice. And the skating rink can fit within the football field parameters, I guess.
If that's where they put it, yes.
Yeah, it doesn't fit anywhere else in town.
Yeah, I think the drawing that I saw for the existing conditions, it was shown separate from the play field. So in this
Yes,
particular
right now,
case,
it's,
you don't have that.
right now, its position would be, so we have the storage building and what we refer to as the snack shack. It was in front of them,
Right.
kind of set back towards the north side.
I think that was going to be the new rule, no skating rink or snack shop.
Pardon?
I think that was the new rule, no skating rink or snack shop. This is pretty good document.
So what I just described to you, I had to do, this is your property line at an angle here. And I've got a 50-foot setback based on your zoning, so I had to rework this form of parking, so it comes in at an angle. Some of this parking wraps around the back of the building for the staff. This parking right here is the parking I mentioned, that's for the public. This is your skating rink.
That's the existing
This is
one.
that's the existing skating rink, and this rectangle is your existing playfield location. The blue line is the proposed relocation of the football field, and you can see that the skating rink would be within that boundary.
Right, because originally the park commission is leveled area, that skating rink was here. This is where Public Works chose to put it before this line was more down here in front of this building.
What's the dimensions of the football field?
100 yards, but
No, that's
It's gotta be 120 yards,
It's gotta be
at
120.
Whatever,
What's the scale? One inch is 40
whatever
feet.
size it is today, it's the same size relocated.
Okay, as long as you got the two.
So, but
And
see how
zones.
it fits in
Yeah.
nicely
I just
there?
did it
That
that
way?
way.
It's like 60 by 120.
Well, except where do you put bleachers?
60 yards wide.
You only have, you're 40 feet between here and here.
This is your existing fence that may or may not stay.
Right.
You can adjust this parking and have some bleachers over here.
Or have them take some of the fencing here, put bleachers there and act as a fence, put the fencing behind the bleachers.
This berm that they referred to as soil from the graves is screened loam.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
not,
From the school.
it's from the Winnisquam Regional School Project. They donated it to us when we built the field.
On the
It doesn't
15th.
look very big now with that kind of a thing. When you look at a map like that,
No.
but it's 11,000.
When we put seats up, when we did the rink work, and Mike Barrington did it, rather than use that
So
one,
it
he
has
just bought
shifted ever so slightly this way.
Edmonds, because there was too much time to try to rescreen.
Pretty neat.
How nailed down are we to the 50
There
feet?
wasn't screening.
It's a town project, how we can get closer than 50 feet if
Yeah,
we're so inclined.
you could.
I hate
But we should
to, I
be-
hate to waste.
We could be good neighbors.
Any, yeah,
If we
but
go 40 feet, it would still be sufficient.
there would be plenty of space in there, and that property is valuable to us, and we should use every square inch of it that we can. And I'm not suggesting we don't have green space or any of that kind of stuff, but it seems like the 50 feet could be excessive.
Well, if you could decide that that 50 feet could be less, if you could tell me what that number is, I could redo the layout to show you the
Well,
benefit
it
of that.
can be, that doesn't mean without a variance, it would be.
It doesn't require a variance.
Well, we have
It's the town
to
of Tilton.
authorize it.
We do not have to comply with our zoning.
No.
As a courtesy, we do go to the planning board to show them any projects we have, but we do not have to comply with our zoning. Should we? Probably.
50
But as Joe
feet.
said, 50 feet setback? That must be a side setback?
It is a side setback. And
Um,
as far as I
Terry,
understand it,
a
you
nice-
It's not gonna be disturbing
No.
the neighbors.
No,
Must ask your butters.
yeah.
Okay, I wanna go down there with you, we're gonna do that till
We're gonna
o'clock
get
at
out
night.
later on.
just,
But all seriousness aside, that could be
I
reduced,
think.
because you're not gonna be disturbing.
as soon as I could know, that would help me, because as we get our civil engineers starting to lay things out, it would be good to know what the parking lot
Do you have an
parameters
idea
would be.
what would be ideal for us? I mean, obviously, we're not going to go 5 feet.
Well, for instance, your rear yard setback is 20 feet, so I could park 20 feet within the parameters of your rear setback. I don't know that that would be any different if your side yard setback is abutting a cemetery. So if you wanted to use that as a guideline, you could say, in the front is 30. So it's the side that's bigger than any of those others. I'm not sure why, but
So if you went 25, you're right there in smack in the middle, or 20, that'd be perfect. 'Cause you still have
and what
20
that
feet
can
of
do is
buffer.
it can keep the building and the parking closer to that property line and leave you more space for the parking and football
Whether it's
field.
Bleachers, 30 feet, you could fit in some bleachers maybe over there near the football field.
That's a good
And the
point.
shack house and whatever, if we're gonna continue with that program over.
So if we left it at 20, that would allow 30 feet on the other side where the parking is for bleachers or whatever. We're gonna need more than 30 feet for bleachers, but, well, not for a couple of bleachers.
No, 4 or 5 bleachers.
I go for that.
You're on the committee, Tom. What does that sound, how does that sound, I mean, to you?
I think you should make as much space available as you can. That's my opinion.
So 25 feet, or 20 feet.
20
Is that what you
feet.
said, 20?
20 is your rear yard setback.
20 is
So
the
go with
rear
20.
yard, 30 is the front, so make 20 the side.
I think 20 on the side would
And
be
then
a
that would
good
give us 30
idea.
extra feet for bleachers and a snack shack.
We aren't gonna, see, out and back of the building, it's not gonna do us any good ever. It's just a maintenance issue, and we're not bugging anybody or nothing, and by putting it on the other side of the building, it opens up a lot more. You know, once that
Well,
building's in
we-
place, it
We
ain't going
figured
nowhere.
we're gonna put parking out back plus the generator out back, so those are the couple of things that we
Yeah,
needed
but
the
those are
space
already
for.
accounted for in his
That-
plan,
that's
plus
right.
50
Just
feet.
take that, and
Right.
shift it.
Yeah,
I like more room for the ball field.
I have a question about, would there still be room for landscaping to create some type of buffer between the cemetery and the police station?
You'd have 20 feet.
So
20
you
feet.
could, and you would be doing landscape design, so some type of shrubs?
It's whatever you folks would.
Arborvitae's.
Because, you haven't set a project
is with
budget
the-
yet.
Yeah, there's
so-
Swamp trees.
people who know better than me about
Jeannie
those
would like
kinds
to
of
say
things.
something.
Jeannie?
I just wanted to mention that in the deed document, it talks about the diocese putting up a fence. I did ask if they planned to do that, and they haven't made up their mind one way or the other yet, but they have the ability to do that between the two pieces of property.
And that would have to be a
They-
boundary fence anyway.
Yeah,
So we'd still have 20 feet. to-
So I
Still
just,
have the-
I just say that in terms
Yeah.
of any kind of arborvitae or anything, you may not need it if they're putting up
Well,
a
if they
fence.
put up a fence, you could go even closer, because then it's just wasted space at that point.
they put the fence up on the property line, we'd still have 20 feet of grass or
Right, exactly, that you
shrubs or
have to
whatever.
maintain.
You still have to maintain it.
So if
They
you
always
put-
talked about a fence, even when we just had the ball field there, to keep people from trespassing into the cemetery and just
That's not a bad idea.
littering and, but I
So-
think with the police station
It's
backed up
8
to
E's
it.
from the police
With the
department.
police station backed up to it, that's probably not an issue.
Not as much.
Sounds like we could
But I
be
think
very feasible.
20 feet, yeah. Everybody, 20 feet?
I'm good with 20
So
feet.
moved.
All right.
So we have, wait a
What do you
minute.
think, Tom?
Okay, so there's a motion and a second.
Who did that? Who made the motion?
Okay, because this is going to be official, so we're going
Yeah.
to change that. So we
So the
have a
setback.
motion to
And a second.
change the
And a second.
setback on the
And a
side.
second.
20
Setback,
feet.
side setback to 20 feet.
And you can state in the motion which side that is, which boundary it's described as in the deed or something. And a second,
It's the southerly boundary.
the southerly boundary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
There you got your answer.
That's all that.
Excellent.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, thank you.
That's it, right?
Could we ask the committee to give us at least monthly, I don't know, statements or something on what's going on?
I think they would.
Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
I can even present on a monthly basis if you want.
that would be great.
Keep everybody up.
That would be wonderful.
And we are also keeping a running total, Tim, on what we're spending. So, because we've got a certain amount, so
We have a certain
we're
amount.
paying attention
Thank
to
you
that
for
as
that.
well.
Yep.
It was good to
Thanks,
see
Gary.
you.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Good night, Gary.
So, I don't know if you'd like me to continue, if you want to move on to something else on the agenda and circle back to me.
We've already done everything on the other things.
Most of it, yeah.
I waited for you to bring up
Oh,
the two issues anyway, because they're on your list.
Do you want, yeah, just go ahead and continue with your town administrator's report? That'll keep everything else in line.
sure, that the one issue I wanted to talk about was the town planner positions interviews, and I do believe we should probably go into non-public for that. I expect you'll have some questions that we probably want to keep in non-public.
So
So I
Tom,
don't-
would you like to go downstairs for a bit and then come back up?
So,
Okay.
okay.
Make a motion, we go into non-pub per RSA 91A:3 personnel.
Second.
Hiring?
Hiring, hiring,
Which is
Second.
B.
B.
Second.
When we have a second roll call vote,
Constantino, yes.
Dawson, yes.
Bog, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
Excellent.
We're getting good at it.
We are red. Red is on. At this time, I would like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public session as they pertain to personnel issues permanently.
Second.
So we have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved?
I've,
I'm thinking, was that really information to be sealed permanently? Or until?
That particular thing would be, as we go forward, there would be certain parts, I think, that would be made public, but the process is probably a non-public. We use names and a lot of names.
Oh, we did, okay, so, yes,
Okay.
I just have a few more things. So you've got the FYI part of my report. Gail let me know that you each would like a copy of the Crederi report, and I will get that in your folders for you.
Let Tom in?
No, I think he left,
Tim is turning it around.
Oh, okay.
You also saw the information in my FYI about the intern.
Yes.
We did get an intern, and he will start June
FYI
3rd.
died.
Pat had asked the question, would we
Yeah.
have the opportunity to meet him? If you'd like to have him come to a selectmen's meeting, I'm sure he'd be happy to. He's in his MPA program at UNH. Nice young man, and I think he's very excited to come and work with us on our...
What would he be doing potentially?
So, one of the things that I've talked to you all about is a standard operating procedures manual for the town, so that if I get hit by a bus, Gail gets hit by a bus, Tim, whatever, that
I'm not
we-
driving it.
we have procedures in place so that everybody understands who's doing what and how it should be done, so that you don't miss a beat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. And there could be other side projects if we wanted him to work on other things. But I think just that operating manual is going to take a lot of time, and we have them for about 5 months.
I'll come in and meet him.
You want me to have him come to Selectmen's
I
meeting?
think sometime if you want to come up and see how we work.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
choose
absolutely.
a meeting where we have easy topics, so we behave.
Okay. All right. You saw that, I just wanted to point out that Senator Guide is working really hard to get that money in the budget for Caleb Hill. I appreciate his efforts. Pat, I wasn't here, so I don't know, did you talk about the lead
I was leaving it for you.
Okay, so last week we talked about attending this lead dinner where they're honoring Chief Cormier, and they have reduced the price down to $75 per ticket. So,
Such a deal.
Did they
Yeah.
change the food?
no. The chief, I think the chief had a conversation with some folks about the price. So they called today. I called this morning to make the reservation, and they told me it was $500 for 2 tickets, and I said, I don't think so. And then we got a call back probably 2 hours later saying it was $75 per person. So if anyone wants to go, I'm going to make the ticket reservations tomorrow. That's Saturday, June 1st. It's 6:30. It's at Plymouth.
I really want to honor the chief, but I just, $75.
You don't want to go?
I do want to go.
All right, go. Jeannie and I are going. John?
All right.
Keep going on.
Well, so let me know. I will be making the reservations in the afternoon. Yes, Joe?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'll go.
All right.
Yes.
Couple other things I just wanted to mention to you. I've been following some pieces of legislation that concern me about the impact to our community on the taxpayers. One has to do with, it's House Bill 616, and it has to do with cost of living adjustment for retirees, for the New Hampshire retirement system retirees. And there was a bill that provides a 1.5% COLA to all retirees who have been retired at least 5 years prior to July 2019. And what they're proposing to do is put this money into the unfunded liability, the current $5 billion unfunded liability, and paid by future employer rate increases over the next 20 years. Well, what that means for local governments, municipalities, school districts, and counties is $116 million.
Ooh.
So I worked with a working group of people to get an amendment put in that was put in, I want to say it was yesterday or today, to say, okay, we believe that retirees should get a COLA, but we don't believe the community should pay for it. State, if you want it, state you pay for it. So the amendment was to say front load it. You know, we've got a surplus, pay for it up front, don't push it down to the communities. Well, that amendment failed, but we still have to push on, and that means if it makes its way to the governor's desk, that we need to, communities, and that's what we're working on, is the communities, the selectmen, to push back and say, no, if you want this to happen, you have to fund it with surplus, don't push it down to the communities. So I may be asking you to let me draft a letter from the select board.
Draft away.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Do it.
good.
Thank you for your work.
Yeah, it's an unfunded mandate.
It absolutely is, and in fact, if it does pass, it's a 28-day unfunded mandate, and we have a great lawsuit. Not that we prefer not to go there, but
They have to stop.
so the other bill that we've been watching has to do with the PFAS.
Is Air Force Base pollution?
Yes, it's
From the fire foam?
yes, it's the
I couldn't
it's
say it
the
either.
it's a perfluoritic acid. So basically what happened, there was a bill last year, I think it was Senate Bill 309, where they said, and this had to do with peas and it had to do with St. Cobain, and there was this uproar because everybody wants clean drinking water, and the panic rush to fix the problem. And Senate Bill 309 or 306, whatever it was, last year said, okay, DES, you need to do your homework. You need to figure out what the cost benefit, how far do we need to go, you know, reduce the levels. Well, they didn't do all their homework. They just rushed to say, we've got to reduce these levels. And they're racing to the bottom, which means it's going to come back on the communities. We're going to end up spending a lot of money individually as communities to get clean drinking water that we really they don't have, the science isn't there, they don't have all the facts on it. So we have another working group that has worked on an amendment. We met with some of the senators, and it's a bipartisan effort, and they're gonna bring that forward and see if we can get that passed. And basically the amendment says, okay, DES, you can't do anything until you finish your homework, because we gave you homework and you didn't finish it, which means you need to do the cost-benefit analysis, and you need to know what the science is behind it. So it's just, it's nothing I ever paid attention to, but it really can be kind of scary because, and I think I mentioned this the other day in the staff meeting, that this stuff gets into, can be created from car washes, from laundromats, and gets into the groundwater. So,
It leaches very quickly.
yes. So that would be another drafting a letter of support from the select board. And for any of you who want any information on either one of these bills, I can send you the information.
Sounds like a rush like they did with MTBE and gas. We solved the air problem, created a whole nother problem.
I do.
Okay, I'll get you copies. And I think that's it for me.
Is there anything on the wood chips and I know Jason Stock was interviewed. I mean, we're heating our school with the wood chips, and
They're trying to do that again.
they're trying to eliminate the
Biomass plants?
the biomass.
Yeah, they're all closed. Yeah, and there is legislation out there to try to force Eversource, I think, to enter into the contract negotiations because they're essentially refusing to. But at this point, all the biomass plants are closed, which is a real shame.
Well, biomass for electricity,
Electricity.
Winnisquam has a biomass plant, that's still running, right?
Well, I'm
You're
guessing,
talking
When
the
it's a
heat, the
school,
electrical
We call
generator.
pellets for heat,
Okay.
the boiler.
Huh?
So-
No, it's wood chip.
yeah, so.
Whatever it is,
So
yeah,
if that's what you were talking about,
Yes.
sorry, no.
Um,
I thought you were talking about the biomass plants.
Because
Up in Plymouth?
they
Yeah.
closed down the biomass plants, what happened is a lot of people are getting out of doing it because they lost so much money in it. So it's reducing the supply of that, which is driving up the cost, and nobody wants to supply,
Right,
such as our high school anymore.
right. They're not, because it's all part of the process, because it helps our forests keep healthy, because it's the coal that they bring out of the woods that nobody else wants, but the biomass plants, because they burn it for energy.
So we use every
And-
part of the tree if we cut it.
Right. So,
I have a question.
Pat?
Under the Senate rejecting the plastic straw, the bag ban thing, it says that the amendment, which passed in a 14 to 10 party line vote, calls for all municipalities to file annual reports to the Department of Environmental Services on progress towards meeting the state's statutory goal of diverting 40% of solid waste away from the landfills or incinerators. So this bill that they defeated and says you have to use a single-use plastic straw only, did that actually pass? Because it says
I think it failed.
it failed. Okay. When they do this, when they pass a bill like this, does it go through like all food services, and do they alert all municipalities with food services? We just have to figure it out on our own?
Right. That's part of the challenge is there's so much that goes on in Concord, and unless you have somebody dedicated just to following anything that affects your municipality, you're going to miss those things. And for me, because I sit on the board of NHMA, which benefits, I think, us, because now I'm getting, once a month, they're telling me all this, and it helps me be an advocate for the community.
I'm concerned with the senior center because I don't know whether we should be changing it or not,
Changing,
the straws, because they use straws up there. But we don't have to right now, and they're not going to send us anything to say we have to if it does. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing, we're a little bit late, but we're ahead on other things. Wait, for 7 PM is the water discharge ordinance. Catherine, are you ready for that?
Sure.
How you doing?
I have a question on I have a comment on the traffic and parking ordinance, but that can wait, I guess. So, the same as it was last week. The only thing they did is just so you could see, I put it where, I put it in the ordinance where it would be as per the draft ordinance.
okay, so,
Do we have a
Kevin
copy of it?
suggested.
so you're using the latest draft number 2, Catherine? Is that
So what I did, no,
You're not,
no, so what I'm suggesting is we put it in the one that's online,
this one.
that's currently approved.
I have copies if anyone wants one.
That's on the website,
Totally makes sense to
which
me.
is the one from 2010, which I believe has the language that the attorney suggested to us. Maybe it doesn't. Anyway, this is the one that's on the website. I'm just putting it in approximately, if you look at his draft, it falls between pushing back snowbankings and miscellaneous. That's where he had it. That's where he suggested it, so
Yeah, could I?
I did as he.
Could I have a copy of that? Good.
as he suggested.
And where are you putting it, just so I know? Oh, I see.
So if you look at the,
Between F and G.
right, as you heard earlier, Kevin is all for it.
And he's making changes to the existing one to come back to us?
Pardon?
Did I hear that he's making changes to this and will be
He's-
coming back?
Excuse me, he brought a draft before us in, believe it was February. And then we gave him the information on the sidewalks that the attorney had suggested that needs to be in there. And he hasn't brought it back to us yet.
Now, my only suggestion is when you read the ordinance, we start with Tilton Department of Public Works and then in parentheses DPW, and we alternate between DPW and TDPW. I'd just say make it all DPW.
Do we need to have this immediately, or can we ask Kevin to produce the other one for its approval, including this?
We need to have this now. He stated tonight, he has other properties, but he has an issue with the sump pump.
Other than the Cedar Street?
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
question on this. Okay, so it says that you cannot, no discharge of sump pumps, cellar drains, or any other water from private property into town streets, highways, or state. Okay, so if I'm washing my car, the way my driveway is set up and pitched, the water from washing my car will go into the street, runs down Morrison Ave. So I no longer can wash my car in my driveway anymore.
Well, especially in the winter if it turns to
Well,
ice.
But I'm talking about summer, because I wouldn't, it's too cold to wash in the winter. So, I couldn't really agree with that.
That's the way it is. We're not supposed to dump onto the state, they're not supposed to dump onto us. We're supposed to contain our own
Yeah.
water.
And yet, yeah, after all, people want to wash their cars in the winter when it's not cold during the day, but yet that water that flows into the street is going to freeze
Yeah, well, that's.
and cause a
what-
hazard.
So I can't, just because it might freeze in the winter, I can't wash my car and we can't have car washes for the schools, and all that? I think you need,
But what you're suggesting here, Catherine, is just for snow and sump pump
No.
discharge,
No.
no?
No.
Oh,
or any other water.
Any other water?
okay. It's going in the winter maintenance policy.
And this is, I didn't come up with this language.
Yeah.
This came from another community, the whole lawyer looked at it.
It said,
I liked it.
including any other water
And I'm
from
thinking,
private property onto town streets or highways, including state-owned Class 2.
so should there be a time when other water should be enforced or not enforced? Like, when the parking ban goes on in November? Or nobody can put any water?
No, I believe the state on their roads, we had the issue a few years ago on Church or River with sump pumps dumping in to the edge of the road in the ditch, and the state went to the property owners.
So you have people that have driveways that are on a slight angle, like, for instance, Kirk's washes his vehicle in his driveway, and some falls on in the middle of summer or washes his bike onto Cedar Street. You're going to cite him for that?
All driveways are made so that
It drains out.
And the apron drains off of this, into the street, as opposed to having the street drain onto the, well, they should be made, as opposed to the street draining
I was
into
gonna say, they're
people's
not all that
driveway. I know that.
Depends on the terrain.
Basically, his edge of his driveway should have enough of a swale to keep the water from getting onto the town road and go to the side to the lawn if you've got that much.
I understand the intent of this addition to our ordinance, but there's gotta be a way to cover what
So-
really needs to be covered and still allow for the washing of a
So
car or whatever.
my suggestion right now,
Put a date.
nope, my suggestion right now is to cross out or any other water. So that it says there should be no discharge of sump pumps or cellar drains from private property onto town streets or highways, blah, blah, blah. And then let Kevin, between now and when he presents the draft to us, work on the other.
Yeah.
I would certainly be more in favor of that.
How soon is Kevin,
Definitely winter.
Steve's got her hand up.
You were speaking first, Pat.
How soon is Kevin, how close is he to getting his copy done, his revision?
I don't know.
He's been
I
working
think
on
he
it
said
since
mid-June.
February, mid-June.
It pops into my head that he said he was gonna have this ready by mid-June. Like, okay,
No, I wouldn't hold him on it because he had some delays this spring.
that's true, that's true. But we'll see how it plays out. He's working on it, he says.
Yes, he did.
Jeannie?
Just a couple questions. One, I know that Catherine is working off of the document that's on the website, correct? But I also know this document that you all have worked on, this is the draft document that you never approved. Does this go away completely now?
No.
No, that's
No,
the,
he's just gonna move that into this language, into this.
Into the one that's on the website now?
right, that's the one that
So,
he's revising.
My proposal is to put it in the one right now that we're enforcing.
Okay,
That's what's on the books.
okay.
When he presents us the draft, he'll take that. 'Cause
Gotcha.
He and I had this conversation.
Okay.
That's why I gave that copy to
I
him.
see.
And
Into
you'll see that language in here. That's why I'm saying, if we simply take out those words,
Yep.
then he has time to, change it. Excuse me. Or not.
Okay.
And so my other question is, not that I want to take on more work for myself, but do you really want Kevin doing this work when they're very shorthanded and we could probably do it? I mean, I could sit down with them. I mean, there are so many other things that need to be done and
Yeah.
that this...
Assuming that you were gonna do it
Yeah, I'm-
anyway, so.
Oh, okay, well...
You work out whatever you're gonna do.
I heard Kevin was going to do it, so I just didn't...
Whoever brings it to
Okay.
us, I'm happy.
All right, just wanted to make
Everybody
sure.
working together. so
Yep,
things-
all right.
No,
Process.
to make it, I know he's got this draft, but to make it easier, I'm the one who wrote the original document, so I have it in my computer as the changeable.
This one? I think this...
I wrote the original winter maintenance policy and
Right.
procedure manual.
But this is one we're using that we're inserting, right? This was off the
Right. The only
website.
thing that changed from what I wrote was the addition of the attorney language.
She wrote it.
It's all on the ribbon from the typewriter.
That was what, 1937?
I heard the ribbon on the typewriter.
So do you all need to take a vote on approving the insert that language that Catherine wants?
I would make a motion to insert the language as presented with the exception of the any other water part of it, or any other water.
So motion, second, anybody?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion as to what we're doing here? Pat?
There is no discharge from the solid from private.
So we're crossing out or any other water. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Can I make another statement, John? Just so the property owners are aware, they also cannot dump their sump pumps or cellar drains into the municipal sewer system. That's against DES regulations. That floods their system with water that doesn't really need to be treated.
Or gutters.
Can you kind of explain what happened on Cedar Street? I mean, Eric alluded to it, and Kevin said, well, we're working with the homeowner. But in essence, to my knowledge, what happened was years and years ago, probably what we can determine maybe in about 50 years ago,
More than that.
wasn't? How many?
Probably, so, a little history of the area. The original sewers were put in those areas, like Peabody Street. That was from a Bell Peabody Brown subdivision, the factories, the mills. And sewer was put in by the mills. They didn't care at that time. I mean, it went to the river.
Yep.
All sewers went to the river. So they piped in whatever, storm drains, it didn't matter, and it went to the river. The area on Cedar Street was a subdivision back in the early part of the turn of the 1900s. That used to be the Davis Estate, I believe. That was a subdivision. And again, the sewers all went to the river. So they pumped anything into it.
So back many,
Probably 75 years ago.
75 years ago, this house was built that put in a perimeter drain that went into a sewer line. And along comes 2019, and we're redoing Cedar Street, and they're updating some sewer lines, which they put in, which now is no longer legal to have that drain. So they put in the sewer line and disconnected that drain. So now all of the water from that basement is now needed to come out of that basement. And so he sump pumped it out.
Well, the sump pump was there originally anyway. From what I understood when I was talking to John Chase from the Water District,
Yeah, he just put,
this was a new pump because the earlier one burnt out.
yeah,
Was the house odd or even numbered?
It's 26.
even.
Because at one point I saw where it was an odd, and I was trying to figure it out because of where the line was.
So it wasn't a random kind of, I think I'll just sump pump my cellar out, water out and into the street. It was like, here's a perimeter drain that's been in for 75 years, and all of a sudden now we have...
Used to be done.
Right, and that's how it used to be done, exactly. And so now we come into the real world of 2019, it can no longer be done. Welcome to the village district. So
Well, it
that's
hasn't-
what happens.
It has been against the law for
Oh, quite a while.
40
Yeah.
years.
And
Putting
so,
it out into the street.
go one step further, we have new ownership.
So,
John, one step further, 3 years ago, it took over new ownership, so the original owner sold the house, so now it all has to be updated.
surprise.
Yeah. So that's what happens in this kind of
You know,
situation.
When they do home inspections for people buying homes, it's one thing that they check is,
So now you have to do a sump pump that's, what did you say, dissipated,
Yeah, they should move.
because it's only got a
Kevin's gonna
tiny
talk
piece
to
of
them.
lawn to do it
No,
in
you do
the
it-
village.
Kevin's going to talk to them about where they should
I mean,
better locate it.
here.
Blind inlet, Catherine. You dig a hole, you put crushed stone on the bottom, you put in a couple risers, you put a grate on top. Or actually, if it's a sump pump, you want to pipe into it, you can. And it goes into that, it perks down through, you've got the pipe chambers to give you volume storage. I've got one in the end of my driveway, and
We have to.
yeah, they do a good
DES
job.
has a book, it's actually on their website, about stormwater management, and they do allow stormwater to be pumped into dry wells. It's about the only thing you can pump into a
What did
dry
you
well.
A blind inlet.
Blind
I have a
inlet.
drywall.
Yeah.
You're
French
basically
drain.
setting the concrete rings on stone so that there's no bottom.
I'm gonna look it up, I might use that for me.
You'll dry one.
Because
Yeah.
I think I used to, I don't know, but I something.
Okay,
No.
John,
anything else on that?
I have a question on this.
Traffic and parking ordinance, yeah, go ahead, why don't we, yeah. We have a question on this document that's being handed around, the traffic and parking ordinance amendment, 2019. Catherine?
We have to hand it back to me.
No.
All right.
Ask your question.
I can't, I don't
Until you
have,
sign it.
my memory didn't go that far. I didn't. So my question is, we had a lot of conversation about the parking lots and the post office parking and Mechanic Street. So this doesn't include the back portion of Mechanic Street that is owned by the town, that's being used for parking by tenants. It says Lot E off Mechanic Street, lot is on the left, but it doesn't address that back parking lot. And I'm pretty sure there's tenants back there that have bought placards that are using it as we speak.
Because my understanding is that it's not supposed to be a parking lot back there. This winter I went back there many times because we were getting calls about it not being plowed, not being maintained, and we don't recognize it apparently in the back.
There's some stuff going on.
I thought there was like a series right there along the edge of the river that we did use as municipal park.
There's a when you go back down Mechanic Street, there's that white house.
Yeah.
And in the front part, there's our parking lot.
Yes.
And then if you go past the house, there's that old house over there. And then there's this big space in back, which we don't identify as a parking lot, but people are parking back there. And it was one of the things that I, at some point, wanted to have a conversation with you. What do you want to do? Do you want to have it as a parking lot? Because right now, we don't plow it. And we had, as I said, we'd gotten calls from tenants complaining that we're not parking, or we're not plowing it, but it's because we're not recognizing it.
It's not officially a parking lot.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is why it's not on there.
I'm sorry. My understanding was they sold one of the tenants a placard to park there.
Well, that's silly, isn't it?
So if we're not going to recognize it as a parking lot, I'm good to sign this.
That's my understanding. I've had this conversation with
I
Kevin.
don't want to change
Yep.
anything about that particular spot.
Okay.
When,
Personally.
So then we need
I
to,
have some,
the police need to understand that it's not a parking lot.
Pat had something?
when we originally did the parking ordinance, that was never, we decided not to recognize that as a parking area, ever. So we need to just contact the police and say, do not issue parking for that particular spot. The front parking spot, yes, where the dumpsters are.
Right, and what was happening this past winter is there was one resident in particular who, the person who owns the house has signs on the building that says parking, but it's not his property to have people park there.
Nor to plow it or maintain.
Well, we don't, right, and he
Yeah, he can't
he
do
wouldn't
that.
plow it because he says it's not his.
That's right.
He should
And-
But
plow
he
it.
designated it as parking,
Yes.
even though it
He
wasn't his.
designated it as his parking for his building?
On the face of the building, it says parking.
Okay, so we need to contact him and ask him to remove it because it's not his parking.
Not officially parking.
It's municipal public parking.
No,
It's complicated.
it's
more.
not.
It's
It's
open space.
not. It's essentially where they use to snow dump, because
Oh, that one round piece up there that's a little, like a little circle that we're talking about not designating it as parking. Yeah, I know exactly
it's
what you're
bigger than
talking
the
it's bigger than that.
I
yeah.
know.
Bigger than that,
I call
but
it a little circle.
It's a big area.
Yes, they
We
shouldn't
use,
be.
like, one resident for the longest time used to park his tractors on it,
Tractors, right,
and he would maintain it,
right.
so we didn't stop it. But to make it more complicated, the Mechanic Street parking lot is where a placard was sold to a single-family home resident who has a driveway.
more research, I guess, by the
Well, it's
police
just
department.
so-
or-
Yeah, anyway, all right, so I signed it. Thank you for clarifying that.
Learn something new. Okay. So we've got that. The discharge done, we've got proposed White Rock and Gaslight solar projects. So
What about them?
apparently they went to the state to
Mhm.
get their grant,
Mhm.
right? That's correct, and that went through. They were approved for their grant for it, but we have not decided on the pilot as yet, how we want to do it. Do we want to allow the pilot, or do we not want to allow the pilot? And,
just find it interesting that since that's happened, I haven't heard anything from the Vermont Law Center. I don't know if anyone here has, but I've not heard anything.
But my understanding is from reading the documents from
Yep.
the Executive Council, they have until, what, June 16th?
15th or
15th, something like that. If
Yeah.
they haven't received the pilot from us, then
Right.
Then why are we making a decision tonight if they have not contacted us for a decision?
Well, I'm already
because they
voting
did
no.
contact us for a decision weeks ago.
Yeah. They
And they've
came
been
and
asking
made
to
a
come before us.
presentation, but we need the pilot from you to make it work. I'm not in favor of that.
So if I,
I am in favor of it.
so June, it's on Sunday, June 9th? We had a resident come in and tell us that at Gaslight, they are having an association meeting on June 9th, which is a Sunday, to talk about this issue. And did that resident not say to you that there wasn't support?
Correct.
There,
They're going to talk about the solar project because
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
they were going to, Gaslight Village has reserved the senior center for their meeting, which is going to be discussing the solar projects. And because they had a lot of confusion and sort of felt the same way that our board feels, that they're pushing the issue and that they're not getting all the information that they require.
And how does White Rock feel about theirs?
Evidently, there wasn't enough interest in Gaslight, so they went to White Rock,
Who went to White Rock?
Vermont Law School.
But they proposed both of them to us simultaneously.
correct.
Feathers
So,
in the cap.
Was this a resident or was this a board of director?
She's a resident.
resident of
It's not the
Gaslight.
same- It's not the same person that usually reserves it. It's the
So this
secretary
was-
of the association.
Okay.
So,
I'm a solid no. I've heard nothing that would change my mind.
Right now, the confusing thing is there's just so many answers out there, up in the air, or so many questions out there that we specifically asked, that the planning board had asked them. And I, in all fairness to the residents and taxpayers in town, I cannot waive their taxes or in these times. I can't.
So you have two pieces of property that right now you're not getting any real taxes on. They're just vacant pieces.
Well, we're getting
That-
taxes, but
We get
Right,
taxes.
but so if the project goes through with the pilot, you're gonna get more money than we're getting now. Maybe not as much as if we assess the value, although I believe Lauren said the difference is negligible.
Right.
But with the pilot, you're going to get more money than you're getting now.
I'm sorry.
We're- What we're told is the residents of both trailer parks will benefit
Mm-hmm.
from the arrays.
Not necessarily from what they were actually told.
Excuse me. Okay. Go ahead.
So it's not up to us to decide, is the project right for them? We're only being asked if we would take a pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, and still a full assessed value. That's all we're being asked. It's not for us to analyze how long the panels will last. That's up to the planning board, quite frankly. I
I
think,
think the impact on the community, if we approve something.
what
that-
impact on the community? And I really want to know.
You have to drive by those things.
Peter had his hand up first, I interrupted him, sorry.
as I recall, the two projects get a benefit of around 18,000. But taxes would be 3658 and 2043, so it's under $6,000 in taxes, they're still making money. But they instead want to pay us a few $100s. Well, anyone else does solar once they get taxed, they pay the full price. Why are we subsidizing them? Second, and more importantly, is Pandora. 72, 74, or whatever the RSA is. If we allow it for this low-income one, any other low-income one that comes, you cannot say no. So keep that in mind.
This is a for-profit endeavor. Somebody's making out. I'm kind of where Peter is. If you start doing this one, if you want to put a solar panel on your house, have at it. But they want to have a commercial entity right along the Route 3 corridor. And I'm not willing to forgive taxes or anything else for that particular endeavor. It would have to be something really specific. I understand that the people that own the property that those will be on will receive a stipend, either monthly or yearly. But it benefits them, I understand that, but I don't see it benefiting the town as a whole.
Do you have any, because I'll start.
I just can't believe you can't say, I just don't understand you can't say that it doesn't benefit the town. We're benefiting the low to moderate income families, and you're saying it doesn't benefit. You're saying it's a for-profit organization, it's not.
Okay.
I'm not
Let's
gonna
get our
say.
opinions, everybody out there, so we know that we're all on it. Anything else, Pat? At this time, you can. One of the things that's being sold is how great it will help low-income and moderate-income people. But some of the question that I specifically asked would affect the numbers that they'd be helping them by, such as the cost to remove it, how they would save for that, the cost of replacing inverters, the maintenance costs, and that. And those were unable to be answered. And she came back with answers, but I didn't get those answers back on those things. And that could actually affect whether or not we're actually helping low to moderate income people, or we could actually be getting them into a contract that 20 years from now, somebody's going to be hurting real hard to pay for this. And to save $18 a month, and I just need those answers to protect my premise of helping. But that's how, aesthetics also bother me too, that it affects the property values of the neighbors and that.
So every private residence along Route 3 could put a solar array in their yard or on the roof, and that's okay? Even though that's
Yeah,
what
if they get
affects the
taxed
aesthetics.
appropriately, sure,
That's
not a
what affects
problem.
the aesthetics.
Okay.
I
There's all
am,
sorts of solar panels on Route 3, which I don't feel affect the aesthetics that a series of solar arrays along the edge of Route 3 is going to affect.
talk to those people who live up in the Samberton, Tilton corner of Autumn Drive.
I know where it is.
I'm a solid yes. We're being asked for a pilot in lieu of taxes, and I'm a solid yes.
Wow.
I think the
Sure.
project will help them. All the information I have that was
So
presented
it's
to me.
two to me. So we're still in a quandary, aren't we now?
So you don't mind letting any other trailer park come along and do it? And every time we do that, the rest of the town has to pick up what they're not paying on their fair share.
So what do we do for Lockmere Country Club?
In terms of what now? You've lost me. What
They
do you-
don't pay a full assessed value.
That's unbeknownst to me.
It's not a pilot, but it's similar.
How is it similar?
What is that called?
It's first I've heard of this.
It's not like current use or something.
No. In their agreement, they pay less taxes. There's a name for it, and I apologize, I don't know it. And the agreement is that, we can, in the winter, you can go snowshoeing or cross-country skiing there. There is a use for residents. But basically, they pay less taxes than if it was than the full assessed value.
It wasn't here then.
I
Neither was
remember
I.
that.
No.
And
Yes,
I-
the
No.
sliding down
It's
the
a,
hill and-
it's a da-da-da-da-da, but I can't remember what that is.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we do not approve the pilot or the White Rock and
Gaslight.
the Gaslight Village project.
I would second that motion.
Let's get some more discussion so everybody knows they're in the air, anything for or against. Matt, anything else?
I have a lot to say, but you've already made up your minds, and there's nothing that I can do to change your mind, because every time you say something like that it benefits low to moderate income, you come back and slam me with a statement that in your opinion doesn't. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut and just stick with my opinion, because it is a nonprofit. It is helping low to moderate income. It is going to, if we do end up with an overage, it is going to spill over to the trailers over to Lancaster Hill in the Gusty Road area. So I think it's going to be a win-win for us. So I'm a solid yes. And when they have their meeting on June 9th, they can approve it or disapprove of it. And it's not going to go anywhere after us, but they can't go anywhere with it, yes or no, unless we approve the pilot. So
Exactly.
let the people decide.
And that's all we're being asked to do.
Right, and that's all we're being asked to do.
Oh, so just the people of White Rock and Gaslight? What about the rest of the town who have to pay full boat? That's all.
No, we're good. Call the question, I guess. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Let
No.
the record show.
Sure.
I'm-
Let the record show.
yeah.
Did you all do selectmen's reports while I was gone?
We did.
I actually have just two more things, or a question, the sonar. Do you want to move forward with that or not?
Of the sonogram?
Yeah, the sonogram.
I would say yes, due diligence.
Yeah, my only concern is when it says it won't pick up small pockets, is there a definition of what they say is small? Is it 6 inches, is it 3 feet? 'Cause-
I can certainly ask that question.
But I don't have a problem going
I don't,
forward.
yeah, and if you want to hold off a week while I get that, no? Okay. So go ahead. And did you sign that, John?
Will it also pick up water, if there's water pockets in there?
It'll pick up voids in the ground.
Voids, yeah.
The
It'll
water,
pick up boulders in the ground.
So-
It'll pick up anomalies.
would
Does it
water
pick up
be
different
avoided?
type material, so it may show water different than sand versus stone?
Right.
It may.
Sandstone, it will have the strata in there and whatever.
The water is technically a void.
Okay,
You see what I'm saying?
yep. I'm not a sonogram expert. In full
Really
disclosure.
Expert,
but
no, but it's a really great
They do
thing.
have a really nice website if you wanted to go on and read, because I checked it out today. So we'll go forward with that.
Okay.
So the only other thing I wanted to bring to your attention, or Lauren asked me to bring to your attention, is the elderly and disabled that were removed from the first bill. I'm gonna send this down and have you look at it, because their names, I don't want to talk about names, but there are two that are crossed out, which means they didn't get the tax bill. The other ones did get a tax bill. Lauren asked me to tell you not to panic, because these folks just didn't send in their information, that they've been trying to get this information from them so that they can deal with their tax bill, and that it will be adjusted in the next tax bill, so they won't have to worry about paying. Does that
Good
make
thing
sense?
The ones that are crossed out you're talking
The
about?
ones that are crossed out are okay. The names that are left are going to get a tax bill.
Okay.
But it's because she hasn't been able to get their information, and this will be the incentive they need to give her the information. Right, because she had to do the tax warrant today for you to sign.
I have one thing left I remembered.
Go ahead. Beck,
Back to Gina.
were you done?
I'm done, thank you.
I just wanted to to say one thing about the, today they dug up the time capsule, and I just felt a huge disappointment in that. I'm excited that they dug it up, but I felt a huge disappointment because I felt that we knew who actually buried the time capsule 50 years ago. 2 people, and they were in the picture burying it, was Carol Stone and Dick Mayer. And I don't believe anyone asked them if they wanted to be present when they dug up the time capsule, and I'm kind of disappointed that that didn't take place. I've said enough, thank you.
I didn't know there was a picture.
Yeah, there
I
is.
do know that Dick Mayer was asked, and he declined. I didn't know that Carol Stone was involved.
There's a picture with Carol
Where's the
Stone.
picture?
Carol Stone and Dick Mayer. I saw it a couple weeks ago. It was given to
Dick Mayer
Cindy
made copies,
Reinhardt.
Oh, really?
Could,
It was given to what?
Cindy has the picture of
Yeah,
them burying
and it was actually one of the pictures that were given with Bonnie Randall and Carol when they were doing the book. Mhm.
I'd like to see the picture.
Yeah,
we
so I'm
ask-
kind of disappointed that that didn't take place. That's kind of sad that
I
we
didn't know.
have a resident right here in
Should invite
Tilton.
them to the burying of the new one.
could we ask that if, that they could go and open the new one?
I'll
Yeah.
be
You
a
know,
part of it at least.
Or open the old one that they buried and
I mean,
help,
that's what I mean, open the.
help bury the
old
next one.
Yeah.
The first shovel full or something.
And
It's a
I-
nice touch.
I also think that, possibly we could have the people that help bury it be people that will be around 50 years.
That's right. Young enough to survive. Shouldn't be me, for instance.
Not
Either.
me.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Would
Opposed?
you ask
So moved?
Cindy to let us have the picture so we make a copy of it, or?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it.
I didn't either. Would like to, but